an inclusive engagement that eventually is leading towards peace, because peace was our final objective. There is a lot that we have learned in this operation, much as there is a lot that we have learned from the previous operations that we have conducted.
And combating corruption in Africa will feature prominently in Cape Town today, where Commonwealth countries will gather to discuss best practice. As the South African host, the Special Investigating Unit will lead the 15th Regional Conference for the heads of agencies. The unit has been at the forefront of unearthing corrupt practices in state institutions in the aftermath of state capture and during the COVID-19 pandemic. Linz Dentlinker takes a look.
Anti-corruption bodies from 21 countries make up the Association of Heads of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Commonwealth Africa. Today they will be meeting under the theme of enhancing inclusive participation of state and non-state actors to prevent and combat corruption. South Africa is estimated to lose billions of rand each year as a result of corruption in procurement in state departments, and the COVID-19 pandemic made this even more apparent as civil servants also try to fraudulently claim relief benefits. The DA has tabled a bill in Parliament seeking to establish a new anti-corruption body to investigate and prosecute high-level corruption and organised crime, but the proposal is yet to garner the necessary political backing. Some of the countries who have similar anti-corruption commissions, including Namibia, Eswatini, Malawi, Mauritius and Kenya, will be present at this week's regional conference of anti-corruption bodies. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
Gold is trading at $3,263.73 an ounce. The rand is at 18.40 to the dollar, 24.43 to the pound, 20.83 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $59.54 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we still have got delays on the M1 South between the Baklu Interchange and Marlborough Drive, while travelling on the M1 North. Delays between Boysons Road and Car Street, that is due to peak time delays there. While leaving the city of Tshwane towards Midrand, expect some delays on the N1 South between the Brakfontein Interchange and Olifantsfontein Road.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 21 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: the Judicial Conduct Tribunal investigating allegations of misconduct against Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Benenge will today resume hearings into the sexual harassment allegations against him.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Your stories,
Your questions.
702 listens. You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, happy Monday. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show on this beautiful 5th day of May. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It's great to have you with us here on 702. All the best with your big moments or appointments or events today. Whatever you're getting up to today, that is a big deal for you. Good luck. The 702 open line starts now. Congratulations to Pirates. 2-1 win over Kaizer Chiefs. In fact, it's the second consecutive Soweto derby double over Kaizer Chiefs. So if you're a Pirates supporter, are you as excited as I am about this coming Saturday? It's the Nedbank Cup final, and what a way to inspire us as fans by winning the derby this past weekend. Just to show how ready we are for the final in KZN this weekend. How do you feel as a Pirates supporter? And as a Kaizer Chiefs supporter, how do you feel? I mean, I must say, Chiefs put Pirates under pressure during the game on Saturday. I think you guys played really well. Well, sort of. You were just not good enough to win, but great effort. How do you feel as a Chiefs supporter? Someone who is a Chiefs supporter said on Twitter on Saturday, and I quote, "Sacrificing this derby to win the Nedbank Cup. I see the vision." I laughed so hard because it's so comforting, isn't it? If you're a Pirates supporter, you're a Chiefs supporter, how do you feel this morning following the derby this past weekend? And more importantly, how do you feel about the Nedbank Cup final this coming Saturday at Moses Mabhida Stadium? 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Did you watch the Formula One Grand Prix in Miami yesterday? Oscar Piastri fetched his fourth win in Formula One this season. Lando Norris came second. George Russell came third. Let me know what your reflections are on that Grand Prix. Have you realized that election campaigning has kicked off for the local government elections next year? You may have heard Panyaza Lesufi speaking this past weekend as the ANC in Gauteng held renewal talks ahead of elections. He said that they're going to come up with a plan to clean up Gauteng. You know, the president has also been visiting provinces to assess service delivery. So look out for politicians. You are going to see a lot of them now in your communities. You're going to see a lot of service delivery. The things that you complained about between the last elections and now are going to be attended to suddenly. The politicians are going to be shocked when you tell them about your service delivery concerns as if they've never had it before. Some of you have never met your councillors. You don't even know who they are. Well, you're about to meet them now. So brace yourself, but also be smart. Don't be easily swayed by their sudden care. Remember where you come from with them so that you can make an informed decision at the polls. But they're going to start now with working on you. So please be alert. Having said that, here's a question for you this morning. Have you decided who you are voting for come the next local government elections? And trust me, it's not too early to ask you this question. There are many people who are now resolved on what to do next year. Have you decided who your vote goes to? Has the GNU or the outcome of the last national elections influenced how you are going to vote next year in the local government elections? Have you decided? And what's your decision if you're comfortable to share that with us? 011-883-0702 is the number to dial. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. If you're watching us on the 702 YouTube page, you're welcome to post your comments there as well. I'll read them throughout the 702 open line. It's easy if you want to watch and listen to us at the same time. You can go to the 702 YouTube page right now. At 10 o'clock, though, we're going to talk about the case of that missing Pretoria journalist and his partner. His name is Sifiso Ndlovu, and he's been missing since February. The family has been devastated by this. It's actually ignited also fears about the safety of journalists in the media fraternity. In fact, back in March, there's a group of journalists who came together and offered a 50,000 Rand reward for any leads on the couple's whereabouts. I think that reward has since increased to 100,000 Rand. The police say that there is some progress in the case. There were some reports that the journalist may have been the target of a group of feared extortionists operating as Boko Haram in Mamelodi. Do you live in and around Mamelodi, Pretoria? What do you understand about what could have happened to this journalist? What are you hearing on the ground? That's what we're going to be focusing on at 10 o'clock. 10:30, we're going to continue with our series about the afterlife. What do you believe about what happens after this life? We've been looking at what different beliefs say about the afterlife, because you're more than your physical body, right? The human experience is more than just this body. And I think we have to be curious enough to ask ourselves questions about other parts of our human experience, whether it's your spirit or your soul. You know, maybe you believe in eternal life, maybe you believe in reincarnation. What do you believe about the afterlife? And are you so curious? We've looked at what Christian denominations believe. We've looked at what Islam teaches about the afterlife. We've looked at African spirituality. Today we're focusing on Judaism and what it teaches about the afterlife. And then at 11 o'clock, we wrap up the show with our Family Matters feature. And today we're discussing how to support a loved one living with a terminal diagnosis. Right? A terminal diagnosis of a loved one is one of the most shattering realities a family can face because it alters time, space, and the shape of everyday life. So when a loved one is given limited time to live, that grief begins long before the final goodbye. So families are suddenly thrust into the circle of hope, caregiving, you're fearful, there's sorrow. So in such moments like that, families need to learn to navigate this deeply painful journey and support their loved ones compassionately and care for their own mental health as well, as individuals, but also as a unit. So how do you do that? We've invited someone who is going to guide us, and maybe you have been there yourself where a loved one was diagnosed with a terminal illness. How did you navigate that as an individual, but also as a family? Because for some of you, you now have to take the leading role because everybody else is falling apart, and you think I have to be the one that holds everyone together, but you forget about holding yourself together. That's a conversation we're going to have at 11 o'clock. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Matibela, you are calling us from Benoni. Good morning.
Dumela madume.
Hey, Tobela, le guy. Hey, you sound like a chief supporter, man. You sound sad in the background.
The biggest supporter. First of all, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
We gave you guys this week. So next week, trust me, my brother, you'll see something that you never saw.
Really?
You'll end in tears.
So what? This weekend, Nelly Ranghe, this weekend, you're just like
It was a party smash.
Okay.
And then we have showed what we are capable of.
Okay.
As you can see. But come Saturday. Hey.
Look, to be fair, Matibela, you guys, I think you really played well on Saturday. I really think you gave us a challenge, but you were just not good enough. But let's see what happens on Saturday.
Let's see what happens on Saturday. And I'm hoping on Monday when I call you.
Yeah. Listen.
You have to tell us, not talk about soccer when I call you on Monday.
And you know that
I'll be the first one to call you on your shows on Monday.
And the sad thing is, I'll be in KZN, because we're broadcasting the show from KZN on Monday. But I'm leaving this weekend because I'm going to Moses Mabhida to watch the Nedbank Cup final. So I'll be there waiting for your call, Matibela, because I know we'll be celebrating.
Even on Twitter.
Okay, Matibela, it's Binoni. Thank you for your call.
Morning. Hey, Clement, what's happening there? Dumela, what's happening? Clement, when it comes to soccer, guys, let us be serious. Sundowns is going to take the league maybe 10 or 20 times in a row. Chiefs and Pirates, I don't hate you for celebrating Pirates, Clement, but let us look at reality. It's about time. If I'm saying Sundowns take the league for the 10th time in a row, then they mustn't compete Sundowns anymore. Every year we must just give them the trophy, and we must stop praising these Chiefs and Pirates for doing nothing because yes, they are doing a little, but Clement, let us be realistic, please, Pheto. As for Panyaza, he was talking to his friends there by the ANC. We're not going to vote for him. Thank you.
Good morning, Clement. Good morning to all the Bagania fans out there. Yeah, what we witnessed on Saturday was just a memorial service. The funeral is this coming Saturday. So prepare yourselves because this one is going to be epic. Yeah, for Kaizer Chiefs, maybe they can win the African Bank Cup or perhaps maybe Capitec Cup or something like that, but not Nedbank. They must just give up. Sharp Clement.
Good morning, Clement and your listeners. I would like to advise Orlando Pirates FC and the coaching staff, etc., that they should not play offside trap for the coming final. If they can try that, that is the only way Kaizer Chiefs will win against Pirates. Other than that, I noticed that the standard of Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates is far apart. Orlando Pirates is much higher than Kaizer Chiefs with a standard of play. But should Orlando Pirates try to play offside trap, the referees will just ignore it and it will be a goal for Kaizer Chiefs. That will be the only way Kaizer Chiefs will win this final. Elliot from the Val. Bye.
Well, Elliot, let's hope they do take your advice. I've been asking you also about who, if you've decided who you are voting for, and a number of you seem to have made up your mind. Some of you are still waiting for maybe 6 months before the voting happens, because there's a lot that happens during that time. And some of you are probably easily swayed by what happens in that 6 months. And I don't think that should be what actually, and I mean, you're welcome to approach it the way you do. How I approach it is, I don't let my mind be swayed easily. And I'm not saying my mind won't be swayed, but it won't be swayed easily in the 6 months before the elections, or even 8 months before the elections, because I know that what politicians are doing during that time are actually doing it for the votes. So they're working me, and I have to be resistant, to them working me. I need to be focused, right? So I'm judging them based on what's happened over the last 5 years, and not so much what they've done in the 8 months, because that's when they put in the work. That's when they think you and I are stupid, which is why I'm asking you the question right now. And I'll ask you this question again 6 months before the elections. But right now I'm asking, have you made up your mind about who you're going to be voting for next year? It's not too early to ask this question. Trust me. Are you still deciding? For some of you, you've probably been impressed by someone in the GNU and you thought, that's the party I'm going to vote for. Because I know we are caught in this illusion that local government elections are about bread and butter issues. Of course, they are. But they are very much so also about national issues. In fact, there are surveys that have been done. When you speak to people on the ground, they'll tell you about some of the national issues that influence how they vote. So this illusion that, oh yeah, we've got national elections and then we've got local government elections and there are separate issues that influence and govern and change our approaches to these elections. I'm not so convinced that's it. There's so much that happens at national level that still influences how we vote. Largely so at local government. So have you been influenced? I mean, some people are regretting having not given the ANC a 2/3 majority. I've heard some people say that even calling us last year when government had to form a GNU. There were people who were calling and saying, oh my God, I've learned my lesson. I shouldn't have not voted for the ANC because now we're going to be stuck in chaos. Are you that kind of a person who now says, okay, now I'm going to be very strategic about voting, giving the ANC more power, or making sure my vote does go to the DA or the EFF or MK party or the IFP, whatever party that you're looking at, or Action SA? Because Action SA performed really well in the local government elections. Not so much in the national elections, but in the local government elections. So are they going to maintain that momentum? What is your approach? Have you decided? And why have you decided on that particular party?
Good morning, Clement. Good morning. I have this crazy idea when it comes to voting. It seems like a lot of people, they appreciate the GNU. So I was thinking, on the bylaws, why can't, as South Africans, we can decide and vote for GNU? Then the parties that will be in GNU, if maybe GNU is number one, number two, number three, number four, number five, whatever, those will be the parties who will be in the GNU. Because GNU has been working for us recently, and I think there will be less corruption because everyone is checking on everyone. So can't we put GNU on the ballot. It's just a crazy idea.
Well, we already have GLUs, right, in different metros, but you're not going to have that on the ballot, because, you vote for a particular party. But when there's no party that's received the majority, that's when parties can come together and decide. But Ekurhuleni has a government of local unity there. Here in Gauteng, or even like in Johannesburg, there are areas, eThekwini in KwaZulu-Natal. So unless you're suggesting that, because on the ballot you can't have GNU, but what you could have is replicate whatever is happening at national level to all the other municipalities, where the DA is part of government everywhere, the IFP, the UDM, all these other parties that form part of the GNU at national level. 25 minutes after 9 o'clock. More of your calls and WhatsApps after this.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
What sort of numbers of soldiers are we talking about here? Not just South African troops, but troops from other regions as well.
I've never actually given a clear hard number at any stage, but it seems to be somewhere just over 2,000.
Do we know why it's taken this long? It's a decision taken by the heads of state in the region to withdraw. To now, it feels like months.
Yeah, a primary issue would have been how to do it. A lot of people, I think, assumed the easiest is to fly out of Goma, but Goma Airport wasn't viable. It was, I don't think, much damage.
Helmut Heidman.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Remember when everyone thought NFTs were the future of modern art? When non-fungible was a buzzword used in boardrooms to justify buying pixels, and the metaverse was just months away, and that we'll all be living in our virtual mansions, admiring our digital paintings, only to realize they were just expensive JPEGs. When you can't trust a trend, trust a 30-year track record of outperforming benchmarks.
Coronation. Trust is earned. Coronation is an authorized FSP.
Prepare for an exhilarating new Hollywood Bets exclusive. You could win big with our exciting new bingo range from Coletta Gaming. Turbocharge your betting experience and enjoy a bounty bonanza when you try Banana Bingo, Bingo Royale, and many more. Chase funky fortunes and get into the groove for a chance to max your numbers. Reap riveting rewards when you log in and play now. Hollywood Bets. It's more fun to bet with us. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
To the itchy, watery eyes, the cough, the sniff and sneeze, and the hives, we say unite against allergies.
Once a day, keeping those allergies far away. Sniffs and sneezes out of our way. We're feeling better with Chairperson once a day.
For 24-hour allergy relief, speak to your pharmacist about Demazin. Demazin gets it done.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
28 minutes after 9 o'clock. Charles, you calling from False Lawrence. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. How are you?
Good, brother. How are you?
Sharp, man. My man, about the vote, I will always vote for ANC. You know, Clement, let me just narrate the story when I grew up. I grew up in the rural place called Malati. The first time I saw the crocodile, I was going to fetch water from the river. And the python, and the python ate my uncle's dog. Same area where we're fetching water. Today, we've got water, we've got taps. You know, I understand the frustration of the people. I'm frustrated too. Even Nelson Mandela, if he was still alive, he would still be frustrated. But he was not going to vote for any party. He was still going to go for...
we don't know that, Charles. He's dead. We don't know what Mandela would have done. But wait, is that a true story you're telling? You're saying a python ate what?
My uncle's dog.
And then what else?
And then the first time I saw crocodile, I was going to the river to get water.
Okay, so now you
I
are
remember I was
grateful.
still young.
Yeah.
I was still young, and I remember I said to my grandmother, I saw a big lizard.
Oh.
And she said to me, no, it's not a lizard, it's a crocodile. Never go there around that time.
Hmm.
Yes.
Where are you from, Charles?
Malatedi.
Where's
There's a
that?
place called Malatedi next to Botswana border.
Oh, okay.
Next to Botswana border.
Okay,
But
so the
it's in
ANC,
northwest.
so the ANC
Sorry?
has given you, so you don't, your people in your community don't need to go to the river and be
Because of the
threatened by
ANC, we're no
pythons or
longer doing
crocodiles
that.
because of the ANC. Okay.
Yes, it's because of the ANC, yes.
All right, Charles, that's great. Thank you so much for calling, brother. All the best,
Thank you.
yeah? And I'm glad that you guys are not threatened by pythons and crocodiles. Huh? I'm actually going to tweet that. Charles is going to vote for the ANC because before the ANC, his uncle's dog was eaten by a python. And he saw a crocodile. And this is when they were trying to go fetch water from the river. And now, thank goodness, they don't have to be subjected to all of that because of the mighty ANC. It's 9:30. Time for the latest in our Witness News headlines. Fiso, hi.
Thanks, Clemens. Good morning. I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing.
What's in the headlines?
Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Benenge's future hangs in the balance as the probe into his conduct continues. Benenge is today set to appear before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal again for a fact-finding mission after a sexual harassment complaint was laid against him. The top judge is accused of making unwanted sexual advances towards High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo between 2021 and 2022. Former Free State Premier Ace Magashule's ex-PA Moradi Cholota is expected to test the Free State High Court's jurisdiction to try her when the asbestos corruption case resumes this morning. The court granted Cholota special plea on the matter more than a week ago. She says the court has no jurisdiction to hold her criminally liable in the fraud and corruption case, claiming her Hollywood-style extradition from the US was unlawful. And combating crime in Africa will feature prominently in Cape Town today, where Commonwealth countries will gather to discuss best practice. As the South African host, the SIU will lead the 15th Regional Conference for the heads of agencies, and the unit has been at the forefront of unearthing corrupt practices in state institutions in the aftermath of state capture and during the COVID-19 pandemic. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
And this EWN Traffic is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you. How are we looking on the roads, Karabo?
Well, Clement, at this stage, if you are heading towards Bedford View coming from the Edenville area, bumper traffic, that's on the R24 westbound between Edenville Road and the Gululis interchange. Also in the Poleshoff area, slow-moving traffic on Witkoppen Road between Stonehaven and Main Road. While in Midrand, heading towards Sandton, expect some delays N1 southbound. That's between Samrand and Allendale Road, and also look out for those faulty traffic lights in Alex at Marlborough and Far East Bank. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
8 out of 10 radio listeners suffer from CAR, or car advertising on repeat. Symptoms include fatigue, anxiety, and confusion. With so many car ads coming at you on your daily commute, buying or selling a car can feel overwhelming. But there is a cure.
Cars.co.za. Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to cars.co.za and let's find what moves you. Cars.co.za.
Just in, Pinky, a 60-year-old woman, slashed 870 Rand a month off her car insurance premium. Pinky switched to Outsurance and now saves 870 Rand a month on her 2020 Kia Seltos 1.6. Outsurance clients always get something out. You could too. Get a quote today and see how much they could save you on your car insurance. Why pay more when you could pay less? Switch to Outsurance today. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. You always get something out. A licensed insured FSP. T's and C's online.
If you knew the future, you'd be brave. Well, now you can be with Volvo's guaranteed future value. Get your EX30 from 9,999 per month, and after 48 months, return, upgrade, or keep. It's safe to be brave with Volvo. Based on 6.13% interest, 48-month term, 10% deposit, and 52% GFE. Initiation fee of 1,207.50 and monthly service fee is 69 Rand. Total cost of credit is 904,500. Finance officer subject to approval from Volvo Car Finance, a product of Westbank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. NCRCP 20. T's and C's apply.
My family's struggling with snotty noses and phlegmy coughs.
Oh no! Have you tried ACC?
ACC 600 is a convenient one-a-day effervescent tablet from 14 years of age, or now also in a no water needed fruity flavored sherbet-like granules that dissolve in your mouth. Ideal for the on-the-go adult. Ask for ACC 600 effervescent or oral powder at your nearest pharmacy to get rid of the snotties and flemmings. And trust, if it doesn't say ACC, it's not ACC.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
25 minutes before 10 o'clock.
Morning, Clemmy. Kengwe in Bramfisherville. I'm a die-hard Buccaneer. For this Saturday, though, we mustn't be too cocky, you know. We must just do the basics right. Defend well, and then we will have one hand on the trophy if we defend well. People have been saying that we've got frailties at the back, especially with set pieces. We must polish that area in our game. What I can tell you is it's gonna be a toe-to-toe battle. We must not be too cocky. I repeat. Nice show as always, Clemmy. Have a fantastic week ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Have a fantastic week yourself. You're right. We mustn't be too cocky because the last time, I remember there was a time when we went to play Sekhukhune United. We were so cocky and we went to play there in Limpopo. We were so cocky. We thought, Sekhukhune, who are they? Yo, they showed us flames. In fact, we ended up playing them in the Nedbank Cup final 2 years ago. Last year. Well, we beat them there. But point is, we were so cocky ahead of our game with them in one of the stadiums in Limpopo. So I take that point, and I hope we are really, really going to be serious and intentional about how we approach this game. Kaizer Chiefs may be at its weakest, but we mustn't think that we're playing with a weak team, especially after what we saw this weekend. They really put up a fight. Oh, but I cannot wait for that sweet victory on Saturday when we beat them 2-1 again.
Good morning, Clement. It's Pat here from Sprayview. Yeah, I'm a great Kaizer Chiefs fan. Yes, you guys, you smashed us. It's fine. But don't be too excited. Nedbank Cup is coming. You won't know what's going to happen. But I think we're going to take it. Watch the space. Coming to the voting, I also know who I'm going to vote for. I think ANC is going to go down the drain even more than before, because there's a lot of things that has happened and that has hurt us from ANC with the previous government. So I think they're going to be punished even more. I thank you.
Okay. Lubabalo in Kukuleti, what are your thoughts? Good morning.
Hi, Clement. How's it going?
Ngiyaphila Pheto, unjani?
Hey, good. Hey, Clement, man, listen, I was listening to Banyaza Lesufi over the weekend, and he was going on about settlements that are now occupied majority by foreign nationals. And you know what? I think at this point, these guys are gaslighting us now. You know, we've always been raising these issues time and time again. We've been called names, xenophobic, and so on and so on. You know, and at time now it's becoming clear that to me that these guys are using these issues with foreign nationals flooding this country as a political tool. You know, look at Gayton Mackenzie. He came out last year with Abahambe, and now the man is a minister, you know. So these guys now have used our cries as a political tool to garner votes, or I don't know, there's some strategy behind this issue with these guys flooding our country like this. I mean, there's a place called Danun here in Cape Town. That place, I won't lie to you, you know, has Zimbabweans and Malawians. They even have a WhatsApp group and a Facebook page to get houses, get jobs, rentals, and everything. In Cape Town, man, you know, the tip of Africa, you've got people all the way from Malawi, and they don't even consider Joburg anymore. They go straight down, they come straight here. I'm not saying they shouldn't come here, but they must document themselves, they must be legal, they must have papers, as I would do when I'm going to Malawi or Zimbabwe or any other country. So now these are our politicians are using this issue that we have to gaslight us and then to garner votes. Every campaign, they're mentioning these things now, and we've always been saying these things.
And what have they done about it, Lubabalo? And that's why we have to be careful, Lubabalo. That's why, in fact, for as long as I've been doing this show, I've always reminded listeners to, before any elections, just be alert. Just know that they're coming. And the reason I say that is because we need to be smart enough not to be played by politicians, because they're going to be working us between now and the next elections. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to start talking about things that they know that you are more passionate about, like the issue of foreign nationals. I mean, how many times have you complained about that? Undocumented foreign nationals. We don't even know how many of them are in this country. How many times have you complained about that? And what did they do about it? Oh, but they're going to come and raise it, and they're going to be shocked and say, I am shocked that in that informal settlement, this is what's happening. Now, are you going to be naive as a voter and say, oh my God, what a caring premier, what a caring president, what a caring councillor? Or are you going to be smart enough to say, but that's exactly what we complained about 5 years ago, 3 years ago, a year ago. What have you done about it? So when they come to you to say, I am shocked that that road is not fixed. I'm shocked that there's an informal settlement where it's just undocumented foreign nationals. You must ask, what have you done about it? Because this didn't just come up now. We need to be smart voters. We cannot be played by politicians forever and ever and then want to call in and complain about things they've promised to do and have failed to do. So be alert. They are coming in your communities. If you didn't know who your councillor is, you're going to find out who they are now, because that's when they care. They care about who you're going to vote for. They're going to come kiss your babies. They're going to come have lunch with you. They're going to go to a shisanyama with you, sit there with you and have vors and pap and chakalaka. That's what's going to happen. They're going to come help you do your laundry on a Saturday morning. Are you going to be a smart voter and think, oh my God, what a caring party? Or are you going to be a smart voter? Be smart. It starts now. Start reviewing what they've done. Start reviewing what they've failed to do or what they've managed and successfully done, so that you make an informed decision. And yes, maybe they may have eaten your uncle's dog. Maybe you may have been threatened by a crocodile 30 years ago. But have they succeeded now? And if you feel that they still have succeeded now, that's fine to say, I am going to vote for this party because they've actually performed in the last 5 years, in the last 3 years, 10 years. That's fine. But there's a lot that happened back there. But the parties don't stop proving themselves because of what they did back there. They continue to provide services. And you have to judge them based on that. Here's a clip of Panyaza Lusufi, because some of you may not have heard him speak about the issue of foreign nationals that Lubabalo is mentioning now. Here's what he said over the weekend.
I went to an area called Marry Me. And I can tell you, comrades, it's not Marry Me alone. There are many other similar things that are like in Marry Me. Comrades, we can't. And this one, comrades, I know it may create problems, but comrades, you must be very firm now. Comrades, we can't have an informal settlement where over 65% of its citizens are undocumented foreign citizens in our own country. It must come to an end. We must be very firm on these things, comrades. And no one must characterize this otherwise. There is no country that can agree that you have people that you don't know who they are, where they come from, where they sleep, what they do, and they're in our country doing as they wish. That period of honeymoon must come to an end. We must be very our Ubuntu, but our Ubuntu cannot be abused. Everyone knows our willingness to work with those that are willing to develop our country, but we can't surrender our country to criminals. And therefore, comrades, I've said this to Comrade President Ramaphosa, I've said this to the relevant ministers. If we can't formally take a decision on how best we manage this situation, we must forget about everything that we want to do. Our hospitals are overflowing. When South Africans are requested to come with an ID document to identify themselves, they don't have to identify themselves but expect to be serviced.
Yeah, that's what the Premier said. It's 14 minutes now before 10 o'clock.
Every time we're on the radio, we're not just talking.
We're turning words into actions.
Actions that change communities.
Actions that make a difference.
And every time you tune into 702, you're not just listening to the radio.
You're in conversation with us.
And your voice matters. You're on a journey with us, and every step we take counts.
It's these steps that not only help us grow as individuals,
but also bring us together as a society through the good times and the bad.
Every step gets us closer to the South Africa we want to be.
So, keep walking with 702.
And let's make this a journey to remember.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
Let's toast to Kumalo, Sithole and Associates.
Kumalo, that's me, a partner at the table. If I had it my way, I would have made it Kumalo, Sithole, Abo Baba Nabo Auntie, who helped with money for registration fees when I was short. And don't forget my grandfather, Umtungwa. He's usually in overalls, but today, uswenkile. They all worked hard to get me here. So kahle, they really are partners in this business.
Experience the power of mutuality. In 2024, we allocated 5.6 billion rand in profit share to our graduate professional members because at PPS, success is better shared. Learn more at pps.co.za. PPS is a licensed life insurer, controlling company and authorized FSP.
Ready to boost your IT career? Get globally recognized with an ISACA certification from Talk IT, Africa's exclusive ISACA elite training partner. Whether it's CISA, CISM, C-RISC or C-GUIDE, our courses validate your skills and prove you've got what it takes to build digital trust in today's enterprise world. Open doors to new opportunities with certifications that employers value. Start your journey today. Visit talkit.com. That's TORQUE-IT.com.
702 would like to thank Omoda for powering our International Jazz Day with 702 and Jazz and Beyond event, as well as Sanctuary Mandela for hosting us so graciously. Thank you also to Back Family Estates and, of course, our listeners who attended the special event. We look forward to hosting more of you in the near future.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
All right, 12 minutes before 10 o'clock now. Pumlani, you're calling us from Pretoria. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Clement.
Ngiyaphila njani?
Ngiyaphila. Hey, Clement, I don't know. I heard you saying that on Friday you'll be broadcasting on KZN, if I'm not mistaken.
On Monday, I'll be broadcasting.
On Monday,
KZN. But
on
I
Friday,
will be
man,
in KZN this weekend, yeah.
Oh, man, but on Friday, man, I'm invited. I'm coming. I was hoping to see. I wrote you on an email, David. I want a photo with you. That's my request.
Don't worry. We must plan it.
Yeah, no.
Are you
So
a
anyways,
Chiefs supporter? Because you'll be crying. I'll be comforting you.
not really. I'm not a Chiefs supporter, but I think I'm more of a Man U supporter. But I
Yeah.
think they are almost similar, But I think with Chiefs, I'm more of a Sundowns fan. But I'm hoping that at least this weekend they win, man. We need them back. I feel like Chiefs fans are fun too, especially when they are hit. I remember when they beat us here in Loftus, to go to the final, man, the comments and everything. I mean, I think we need that Kaizer Chiefs football play, man.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to comment on that. Okay, no, it's fine. Man. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I hope to see you on Friday. Then.
Yeah, Pumlani, I'll check out the email, man. Let's make it happen. Mavingos, you're in Midrand. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. On a lighter side, the soccer thing. I'm a Chiefs supporter, and my niece is a staunch Orlando Pirates supporter, but he's on a spectrum of autism, right? So he's a young teen, but operated around a 12-year, 11-year-old. So he knows his stuff when it comes to soccer.
Yeah.
And I think Pirates lost during the week to Skukun or something. Yes. And then he throws these tantrums. So we have to come to, as a family, sort of calm him down. And one of the things that I said is that, look, but you're going to get your revenge on the weekend because you're playing Chiefs. So he sort of became better. I promise you the Saturday came. The end of the game came. This boy had predicted that they are going to win 2-1 because Chiefs is number 9 on the log and number 9 is bad uncle. And then I said, yes, boy. And Clement, at that time, he threw a tantrum where he had to be clad in his Orlando Pirates t-shirt, his Orlando Pirates shorts, socks and soccer boots and hand gloves and a hoodie. And he wouldn't take them off to bed.
Oh, man,
the only thing we could convince him is to at least take the soccer boots.
Yeah.
So there's a teenager out there who slept in his full gear Orlando Pirates on Saturday, and he's going to be repeating the score to his teachers the whole week. So yeah, that's a different side of soccer that maybe other people don't
get. That's so cool, Mavingos. That's so cool. Yeah, hey, let's hope we win this weekend so that it can be a happy chat.
I hope you win.
Mavingos, thank you for sharing that light story with us. Mavingos calling us from Midrand. Let's go to some WhatsApp voice notes.
Good morning, Clement. This is Mapula. I was listening to Panyathela Show over the weekend, and I'm thinking, where has this man been living under? Under a stone or a rock? Because all the things that he was talking about that they have to renew, these are the residents' complaints, etc., etc. We have been saying that for years. I remember when Mashaba was the mayor of Johannesburg, and he was tackling this thing of abandoned buildings and illegal people in the country. They refused to support him. And at that time, Malusi Gigaba was the Minister of Home Affairs. Now that this thing has gotten out of hand now, and then Godfrey Lebi at that time said 60% of the people they arrest committing crime are foreign nationals. Huh? No, Panyathela cannot do that. The ANC is out. They must leave us. We will get people who are going to really make this country work. Thank you, Clement.
Clement, good morning. Interesting, this discussion about Panyathela Show with his electioneering and making promises. I was in the Western Cape for a week now. Haven't been there for quite some time. Traveled about 1,500 kilometers. Rural areas, small towns, Cape Town itself, no potholes, not a single one. I never saw one. All the street lights working, grass cut. I come home last night, landed our Tambo, R21, some of the lights not working. Hit the Rietvlei Road to Pretoria, potholes everywhere, no street lights working in Pretoria. I know who I'm voting for.
A very good morning to you, Clement. Clement, I'm very concerned about this issue of voting, Clement, let me make a practical example. All right. Here I am, Clement, on my privacy, making a mark or a cross on my ballot paper choosing the party I believe it will deliver for me. After everything has been done, I'm turning my back against the box, leaving the VG, going home. Clement, at the end of the day, somebody must come and collect those boxes to the preferred destination. Now, my question is, what is going on along the way up until to the destination? That's my question, Clement. What's going on? What's going on out there? This is Mujagi Sahalo from Lakeside Proper, Everton in the Val. Thank you, Clemmy.
Ndaba Clement Mapari here from Rodiport. My Sundowns fans, please beat Kaizer Chiefs. They talk too much. And please let Arrows beat you. Then we sort it. Then we fine. Also, the speech of Panyas. Oh, lovely speech, lovely speech. I'm going to listen to that speech while I vote for the DA. Thank you. Nice show.
Hey, Nisile. Jacques, you're in Pretoria. Good morning.
Hello?
Hi.
Yes, man. I think indaba ANC iphelile. There is absolutely nothing that these guys are doing. These guys, they behave just like these charismatic churches. They lying to us. 30 years, they still blame apartheid. The ANC indaba yabo iphelile. There's nothing they are doing for us. Even the DA. They will not do anything different. All they are looking at is their own interest. They are not wrong about the indaba yokuthi bafuna ukufaka abantu abanye emsebenzini. I don't have a problem with that. Because, at the employment equity issue, how can it take 30 years? When is it going to be fixed? It's not even getting at that.
So who do you now vote for then, Jacques?
I wouldn't vote for anyone. These guys are lying for us. They are lying for every single citizen. They are lying to us.
Okay, Jacques in Pretoria says he's not voting for anyone. But also remember, guys, it's not the ANC only that is in local government. There are other parties that are leading, some metros, some municipalities. And you have to assess their performance as well, based on wherever you are, right? There are also coalitions that are leading these metros. So you've got to really think carefully about which party you are voting for, based on your own lived experience wherever you are. Just make a proper assessment. Don't be fooled by politicians. Don't be fooled by politicians.
Hi, Clement. It's Anonymous here in the West End. Look, man, I think, we South Africans are ignorant, and we've been ignorant for a while now. These people are intentionally not fixing these issues because they want to use them later for campaigning. So now we are in a situation where there is a number of undocumented foreigners in South Africa who are responsible for committing serious and heinous criminal activities. And they are not going to act until the elections, if comes. So I think now as South Africans, we need to act and say enough is enough. We remove these people from power.
Good morning, Tate Clement and the listeners. This is David from Modimolle, Limpopo. I'm not going to vote for ANC in this lifetime ever again. Right now it's between MK, Lee EFF. Thank you.
Good day, Clement. Good day, 702 Landers. Abraham in Florida. Clement, I read somewhere where they said now we are looking into a situation where we are heading to the government of what you need. Even the words are like united like that. So I found it very hilarious, and it blew me off because now this is happening at every other level where it's elections. So it's just one of those things. But however, Clement, I think I see EFF as one of the candidates that's going to boom in a very few months from now or years from now, simply because of their policies and how they resonate with the masses, especially the youth. So yeah, ANC forgot about the youth. They totally forgot. We can see in terms of their representation in parliament and in other spheres, right? They sort of lack that inclusivity. So yeah, thanks, Clement. Great show, by the way.
Whether you own a startup in Sandton or a spaza shop in Soweto, Standard Bank has the solutions to grow your business. For just R9 per month, our MyMoBiz business account gives you access to free online banking and a team of business experts. Our Simply Blue Pro card machine enables you to accept payments anytime, anywhere. Search Standard Bank MyMoBiz and Simply Blue to amplify the growth of your business today. Standard Bank is an authorized FSB and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Power, energy, and water. Africa's future depends on them, and Inlet Africa 2025 is where the big decisions happen. From the 20th to the 22nd of May in Cape Town, this leading conference and expo brings together policymakers, industry experts, and innovators to drive Africa's energy transition and challenge the status quo. Register to attend at inlet-africa.com.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sifiso Ndlovu. Police have urged the public to steer clear of Modderfontein Road in Tembisa following a cash in transit heist. It's understood that the criminals travelling in two vehicles blew up the cash van near Church Street this morning. The scene has been cordoned off. We'll bring you more details on that story as they become available. Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Mbenenga's future hangs in the balance as the probe into his conduct continues. Mbenenga is today set to appear before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal again for a fact-finding mission after a sexual harassment complaint was laid against him. The top judge is accused of making unwanted sexual advances towards High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo between 2021 and 2022. The hearings will sit for 2 weeks in Sandton, Johannesburg.
The establishment of the tribunal has triggered the Section 177 process of the Constitution, which provides for the removal of a judge from office. If the tribunal makes a gross misconduct finding against the top judge, it will present a report to the Judicial Service Commission that will consider it and may confirm the finding of the tribunal. The Constitution provides 3 grounds upon which a judge can be impeached, one of which is gross misconduct, another being gross incompetence, and the last being that a judge suffers from an incapacity. Therefore, if the finding of guilt is made against a judge and the JSC confirms it, it will then go to the National Assembly, which has to vote on the matter. Only a 2/3 majority has to vote in favour of the impeachment. Thereafter, the President has to act on the decision of the legislative body and addresses a letter to the judge explaining the date upon which they will cease to be such. Zolega Kodashe, Eyewitness News.
Former Free State Premier Ace Magashule's ex-PA, Moradi Cholota, is expected to test the Free State High Court's jurisdiction to try her when the asbestos corruption case resumes this morning. The court granted Cholota a special plea on the matter more than a week ago. She says the court has no jurisdiction to hold her criminally liable in the fraud and corruption case, claiming her Hollywood-style extradition from the US was unlawful. Nogokayam Dambo has more.
Moradi Cholota was meant to be a key witness for the state in its case against her former boss Ace Magashule in the High Court in Bloemfontein, where he is accused of having a hand in the irregular R255 million contract to identify and eradicate asbestos roofing on low-cost houses. Cholota later backtracked on the agreement. Her arrest followed in April last year before she was finally extradited from the US to stand trial alongside Magashule and his other co-accused. The main trial has now been paused to allow for a trial within a trial to determine if the court indeed has jurisdiction to hear Cholota's case. It's unclear how long the matter is expected to run before the first witness can be called in the main trial. Nogukanyam Dambo. Eyewitness News.
And combating corruption in Africa will feature prominently in Cape Town today, where Commonwealth countries will gather to discuss best practice. As the South African host, the Special Investigating Unit will lead the 15th Regional Conference for the heads of agencies. The unit has been at the forefront of unearthing corrupt practices in state institutions in the aftermath of state capture and during the COVID-19 pandemic. Lindsay Dentlinker reports.
Anti-corruption bodies from 21 countries make up the Association of Heads of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Commonwealth Africa. Today they will be meeting under the theme of enhancing inclusive participation of state and non-state actors to prevent and combat corruption. South Africa is estimated to lose billions of rand each year as a result of corruption in procurement in state departments, and the COVID-19 pandemic made this even more apparent as civil servants also try to fraudulently claim relief benefits. The DA has tabled a bill in Parliament seeking to establish a new anti-corruption body to investigate and prosecute high-level corruption and organised crime, but the proposal is yet to garner the necessary political backing. Some of the countries who have similar anti-corruption commissions, including Namibia, Eswatini, Malawi, Mauritius and Kenya, will be present at this week's regional conference of anti-corruption bodies. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
Gold is trading at $3,263.73 an ounce. The rand is at 18.40 to the dollar, 24.43 to the pound, 20.83 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $59.54 a barrel.
If you're traveling towards the Joburg CBD in the Braamfontein area, that's approaching Wits University, there's slow-moving traffic on the M1 southbound between the Killarney Bends as well as Smith Street. There's also slow-moving traffic heading towards Bedford View on the R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Gilulis interchange. And look out for those faulty traffic lights in Edenvale at Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 21 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Police have urged the public to steer clear of Modderfontein Road in Tembisa following a cash and transit heist.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Your voice.
Your station. 702.
We are listening to you. You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Abel, people are asking us to replay that call of Charles, but I think it's unnecessary. Why do you guys... A lot of people are asking that we must replay the call. Why? Well, I've tweeted it if you really want to reminisce and think about Charles again. But I mean, Charles is sharing his experience. He's got every right to do so. If Charles has seen his uncle's dog be eaten by a python, or he's seen crocodiles in the river going to fetch water, and thanks to the ANC, the community now has access to water, so what? It's his story. And he's got every right to use that as a basis for how he's going to vote going forward. So maybe what we'll do is maybe promo that call, and you can hear it throughout the day here on 702 as opposed to replay it. Okay, remember at 10:30 we are going to do the series that we started a couple of weeks ago where we discuss the afterlife, and we have looked at different Christian denominations and what they believe about the afterlife. We've looked at Islam and what it teaches. We've looked at African spirituality. We'll also touch on other beliefs or non-beliefs. Atheists, what do they believe? Like Scientology, for instance. That's what we'll look at. But we want to start getting us to be more curious about what happens to us after this life experience. As I said earlier on, I think we need to be more curious about our human experience. Our human experience doesn't start with just the physical bodies and end with it. There's a lot more that happens. Do you ever wonder about your spirit? Do you ever wonder about your soul? I've been telling you about this book that I've been reading, which is so cool. I'm about to finish it. In fact, I think I'll finish it this weekend. It's titled The Other Side, Journeys into Mysticism, Magic, and Near Death. So it's a book by Sarah Bullen, who really looks at people who have had near-death experiences and what they experienced. I know some of you may call it hallucinations. Some people may call it visions. But it's really people who, during the time they were in ICU or when they were in trance or when they were in that moment where they are clinically dead. And for some reason, doctors managed to miraculously save them. What is it that they experienced? And often doctors, and I've been watching a lot of Oprah's interviews. Oprah has had lots of interviews about this, and doctors often say that in that moment, you can't really have dreams, right? You can't really have dreams when you're in that particular state or when they're operating you. Because the medication, there's a whole medical explanation, and if there are doctors out there listening, maybe you can help me explain it, because I'm not a medical doctor. But I'll tweet that interview that Oprah Winfrey did. So there are doctors who have come and said, there's no way this person could have had a dream during the time we were operating on them because of 1, 2, 3, the medication we give them or the injection we give them. There's a reason dreams don't ordinarily occur. So when someone comes out and says, this is what I saw, how do you then classify that? So there's a lot that happens, and I'm reading a fascinating account of stories, especially most of the stories that happen on the continent. And Sarah Bullen focuses more on the stories that have been shared by people from the African continent, more so from South Africa, but also touches on other near-death experiences. So if you're interested in this knowledge, you can go check out this book, The Other Side by Sarah Bullen. I think it will be fascinating for you. But that's what we're going to do at 10:30. Today we're focusing on Judaism and what it teaches about the afterlife. At 11 o'clock on our Family Matters feature, we're going to talk about when you have to support a loved one who's living with a terminal diagnosis. Where do you even begin? How do you care for yourself while caring for the other person? So we've got a guest who's going to help us navigate that. Maybe you've got a parent who's been told this, you've got this amount of time to live, or you're suffering from this condition, and that's unfortunately is going to take your life at soon. There's not much that doctors can do. How do you navigate that as a family? Because you start mourning before the death even happens. It's a difficult time for the family. It's a difficult time for you as an individual. Where do you even begin to navigate that? That's a conversation we're having today on our Family Matters feature. 12 minutes now after 10.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
So I want us to focus on a case that should really be worrying, a case that should be worrying a lot of us. And this is about that missing Pretoria journalist and his partner. His name is Sibusiso Ndlovu, and he's been missing since February. The family has been devastated by this. Please spare a thought for them. But this has also ignited fears about the safety of journalists in the country. The media fraternity is worried. I think back in March, there was a group of journalists that said, here's 50,000 Rand as a reward for any leads on the couple's whereabouts. I think that amount has since increased to about 100,000 Rand, if I'm not mistaken. The police have told us this morning that there is some progress in this case. The police spokesperson said they are not able to speak to us this morning, but they said they'll release a statement. So as soon as they release that statement, I'll read it for you. There have been all sorts of reports about what could have happened to them. And again, spare a thought for the family that is sometimes even considering the worst, and is maybe struggling to stay positive, because it's really difficult when you haven't heard or seen or even have the slightest idea of where your loved one could be. So we've invited Sifiso Ndlovu, who is the brother to this missing journalist, Ezri Ndlovu. I've invited the National Press Club as well, Belinda, Pheto, who will speak to us. But let's first start with Sifiso Ndlovu, who is joining us now on the line, just to get context of what really happened here. Sifiso, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Clement?
I'm all right, man. I don't even know what to ask you as the family about how you're doing since the disappearance of your brother and his partner. I can only imagine how difficult this moment must be for you as a family. Just take us through first, how are you doing as the family? And two, what happened here? When last did you guys see Ezri?
The last time I saw him, it was on September last year, but we were talking on WhatsApp, so everything was fine. I don't know what happened, so I'm also not sure what's going on. Because we spoke to police, but the police, especially the police in Mpumalanga, they are not helping us. Maybe Gauteng, they are trying, but I'm not sure, because still now there's no arrest whatsoever. We're still waiting for them.
And has anybody come forward to the family to share, like, when last they spoke to him, and maybe something that gives you an idea of what could have transpired here?
I think so. I don't want to go deep into that information, but whatever information I get, I did told the police, but now we're still waiting for them, but no arrest, no question. We're still waiting. We still have questions. We don't know what happened actually. We're clueless actually.
Sure. And you know, and obviously, as I said to the listeners earlier, there have been all sorts of suggestions about the work that he was doing as a journalist. As a family, do you perhaps think, from at least the information you may have received or having assessed the work that he's done, do you think this may have something to do with his job as a journalist? Because some newspaper reports were indicating that he may have been a target of, you know, a group of feared extortionists that are operating there in Mamelodi.
You see that guy, the one from Soweto, you were referring to Soweto, that newspaper. No, that guy called me and then told me that he was speaking with my brother. They were going to Mpumalanga. My brother told him, but on that report, he said the family said he suspect extortion, which means there's no member of family who told that guy, that journalist. Actually, he's the one who came with that information, but on the report, he said the family suspects extortion, which means we're not sure what's going on. Actually, now we are doing this to the family. We don't know what happened.
Yeah, and maybe he'll indicate which family member he had spoken to. Okay, when last did the police?
He talked to me.
He spoke to you. Okay. When last did the police give you an update, Sifiso?
And the time of the premier was at my house. I was there. That was the last time the police spoke to me.
Okay, and be like, who was the last family member to speak to Ezri before the disappearance, and was it on the day of the disappearance?
No, I think it was 5 days, if I'm not mistaken. He spoke to my mom.
Oh.
But there's someone who spoke to him on the 18th February. He was telling her that I'm home safe.
Okay.
Unfortunately, from there, nothing at all.
Okay, and he's never shared anything about his life being in danger or his life being under threat, nothing like that?
Nothing whatsoever.
Sure. Okay, Sifiso Ndlovu, thank you so much for speaking to us. Yeah, that's the brother to this missing journalist, Ezri Ndlovu. And I don't know if you're based in Mamelodi, what you're able to share with us based on what you're hearing on the ground. This is the guy who founded that Capital Live SAFM. And as I said, all sorts of suggestions, as you can imagine, about what could have transpired here. Other reports suggest that at the time of the disappearance, he was at a different location. Their girlfriend was at a different location. So did they disappear from separate locations? Did they come together? And that's when the disappearance happened. Nobody really knows what happened. And the police seem to suggest that they may have some progress. And hopefully as soon as they release that statement, that's going to guide us slightly on what progress they've made. But this is really sad. From February, you have got people that don't know where this journalist is together with his partner. Since February, that's a very long time. The family is devastated, but there are also questions about whether this may have something to do with the work he was doing as a journalist. If you're in Mamelodi, if you used to listen to Capital Live SAFM, and you may have some new information to us, please give us a call on 011-883-0702. After the break, I'll bring in Belinda Pheto, who's the National Press Club Deputy Chairperson. It's 20 minutes now after 10.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned, and almost 100,000 businesses trust Outsurance.
I'm in tourism. I'm running a guest house here. When I switched over to Outsurance, it was very simple and convenient. I used the savings to subsidize my solar installations. Switching to Outsurance was one of the best decisions I made insurance-wise, yes.
For your business insurance, contact Outsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43503 for immediate cover, or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Are you operating an illegal drug rehabilitation center? According to the law, no person should operate a rehabilitation center unless it is registered. NPO registration is not a license to provide substance abuse services, whether prevention and awareness, community-based services, inpatient, outpatient treatment, as well as halfway houses and aftercare support. The Gauteng Department of Social Development urges you to register your treatment center. Communities must make sure that they do not refer loved ones to illegal rehabilitation centers. To verify registration, contact the nearest social development office. Operating an unregistered drug rehabilitation center is illegal. For more information, please call 011 355 7836 or visit the nearest social development office. This message is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Social Development.
The news is everywhere. Headlines, breaking alerts, endless noise. But at Business Day, we ask the question that matters most. So what? So what does it mean for you, your business, the economy? We go beyond the headlines. We make sense of why it matters. The new format Business Day. Out now. Business Day. Every story is your business.
Some walks are just for exercise, others for leisure. But this walk is for something greater.
It's team building.
This July, you won't just take a step, you'll take a stand. You'll walk through history. You'll walk with it. On Sunday, 27 July, the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns. It's a route that winds through the heart and soul of our capital city. From the sacred grounds of Freedom Park to the powerful steps of the Union buildings. Choose the 8-kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7 kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4-kilometer for families and first-timers. Entries are 360 Rand for adults, 200 Rand for children under 12. Enter now on primemediaplus.com. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, is where footsteps become footprints.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
22 minutes after 10 o'clock, we've been chatting this half hour about the case of this journalist from Pretoria who disappeared with his partner since February. His name is Sifiso Ndlovu, and he was the founder of Capital Live SAFM. The police have been trying to figure out what's transpired here. We are told that there's a bit of progress that's being made in the investigation, but not much has been shared with us. But we truly hope that the police, more so for the sake of the family, that they are somehow making headways. Belinda Pheto is the National Press Club Deputy Chairperson, joining us on the line. Belinda, thank you for making time. Good morning.
Morning, Clement.
So, first of all, what can you share with us about Aseri and the work that he's been doing? My understanding is that he was a member of the press club.
Yeah, Aseri was a member of the press club, and he was not just an ordinary member. He was also an executive committee member, and he was also a member of the African Media Communicators Forum. He's the founder of his radio station in Mamelodi, and he was very big and passionate about community media, not just radio, even print media.
Yeah.
So he was really an advocate for, or he is an advocate for community media. He did all sorts of stories that you can think of. I think that.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Belinda. What do you guys know? I mean, as his colleagues, as even people at the press club, National Press Club, about this disappearance. Did you guys, any of you, speak to him just before? What did you understand? I mean, as soon as the disappearance happened, did you have any information? Because I know you had raised about 50,000 rand and asked that anybody who's got leads, that can be a reward. That money was increased. Have you had people coming through and offering to assist with information?
So far, it's nothing concrete. It's calls from Sangomas, spiritual people. So it's nothing concrete from a person who's coming forward to say that I know what happened, or this was the last person to be seen with them, or there's nothing concrete so far. And I think that's why we even went as far as trying to get donors to raise the reward money, hoping that with this 100,000 that we're offering, maybe someone out there who could be having the information or come forward with something concrete that the police can use.
Yeah. And what about the work that he was doing? As you can imagine, Belinda, there are people, I imagine the family is asking itself, does this disappearance have anything to do with the work he's done? There are people who followed his work, probably also wondering, could this have anything to do with the work that he's done? And I know the media fraternity is also concerned about, could there be threats on journalists? I mean, we've seen some incidences before. They may not have been in this form, but where journalists have been threatened. From where you are sitting as the National Press Club, how are you slicing this? How are you assessing it?
Our initial concern was that did this have anything to do with his work? And at this point, we can't really confirm. We are waiting for the police to tell us what their investigation is leading them to. The other ones, I think, could be in a better position to confirm if the disappearance had anything to do with his work. But also, what also boggles us is that if it had to do with his work, then why take the girlfriend? She was not a journalist. She had nothing to do with the media industry. So why take her too? So I think that is one part of the puzzle that just leaves us with too many questions.
When last, were their phones off immediately? And when did you, as their loved ones, as colleagues, realize that something is offish here because we haven't heard from this person? Was it on the day, 2 days after the disappearance?
I think the alarm was raised by his staff the following day, his staff at the radio station, when he didn't pitch forward. The other ones who raised the alarm that his phone is off, his phones are off, and this is so unlike him. I think we became aware almost, not really immediate, but I think a day later.
Okay. Sure. What assistance do you need, Belinda? Is there anything that you would want organizations to do, people to do? How do we assist in helping in your efforts? Or are we now looking just to the police to hear what they say? Is there anything else that can be done? Are you looking for more money to be raised? How do we assist?
At this point, I think we'll wait for police. Also, yesterday during the Deputy Minister's visit, The police did brief us, and I think for the first time we had police from both provinces in the same room. And this was one of the biggest frustrations for us, is that when you go to Mpumalanga police, they'll tell you that his missing person case is opened in Gauteng, so they're not investigating it. So they wouldn't give us updates or give the family updates. If you go to Gauteng, they'll say we are waiting for Mpumalanga to give us this or do that. So there was that vacuum. But yesterday we got to see that they've really been working. There's a lot of work that has been done. What has been lacking is the communication to the families to assure them that we are working hard. This is where we are. We know, and we're not really expecting a blow-by-blow account of their investigation to say, yeah, today we're calling this person or we're doing this or what. But need a weekly update just to assure them that something has been done. But the briefing that we got from them yesterday does show that a lot of work has been done, and we are really hoping that a breakthrough will come soon.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll just wait for them and their announcement. So
yeah,
we are hopeful, though. We are really hopeful that something positive will.
Yeah. We're also helpful, Belinda, and I mean we'll do our best as well to try and check in with the police and hope that they do those constant updates to the family. Thanks to you as the National Press Club, just for the support that you have also given to the family and the efforts that you've made to try and find answers to the disappearance of this journalist in Pretoria. Spare thought, please, for the family of this journalist, the family of the partner as well. They've been missing since February. Let's hope the police will somehow find a breakthrough. We are told that there's some kind of progress that's been made. Maybe they're following up on some leads, and hopefully there'll be answers. It's 10:30 now. Sifiso has the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Eastern Cape Judge President Selbie Mbenenga's future hangs in the balance as the investigation into his conduct continues. Mbenenga is today set to appear before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal again for a fact-finding mission after a sexual harassment complaint was laid against him. The top judge is accused of making unwanted sexual advances towards High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo between 2021 and 2022. ANC Gauteng Provincial Co-Convener Panyaza Lesufi says the party won't take any shortcuts on service delivery as it prepares for the upcoming local government elections. Lesufi, who is also Gauteng Premier, made the remarks during the closing of a 2-day lekgotla in Joburg yesterday. And some environmental groups are expected to picket in some parts of the country today as lobby group Green Connection heads to the Western Cape High Court to challenge offshore oil and gas exploration on the coast. The legal proceedings will determine whether authorization will be given to Total Energies South Africa to begin exploration for oil and gas between Cape Town and Cape Agulhas. And those are the headlines this EWN, and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you're heading towards Braamfontein, that's Wits University, there's slow-moving traffic on the M1 southbound between Empire Road and the double-deck section. Otherwise, the rest of Gauteng looking good. No accidents have been reported at this stage. Just look out for those faulty traffic lights, though. That's in the Edenvale area, Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck. There's also traffic lights not working. Rand Park Ridge, at Bayers Nodia and the N1 North. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Corporates That Care promotes and encourages corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9, featuring Telkom, their Group Chief Corporate Affairs, Mpho McNamee will be in conversation with Bongani Bingwa. Join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Cares initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702, let's walk the talk and make a difference.
Hollywood Bets exclusive Spin Sonke reels come with pulsating jackpot feels. Go all in with electrifying spins for a chance to win an exclusive Hollywood Bets Durban July Boomtown experience, a signed Ronaldinho soccer jersey, or a share of 500,000 rands in cash. Bet £2 or more on selected booming game slots to start your climb to leaderboard glory. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bets supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matriek mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Every thriving business starts the same way with someone who dares to dream.
If that's you, 702 and Standard Bank's MyMobiz business account want to back your next bold move.
Every week we'll spotlight 4 of Gauteng's boldest entrepreneurs and give them a chance to win 25,000 Rand to boost their business.
And if you already bank smart with a Standard Bank business account, that becomes 50,000 Rand.
50,000 Rand.
To enter, hit primemediaplus.com
and tell us your growth aspiration and how a cash injection could unlock your next level of success.
This week, tune in to 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. to hear if your business is in the running. It's time to rise and thrive with Standard Bank's MyMobiz business account.
TCs and more at primemediaplus.com.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
It's 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. So we started a series a couple of weeks ago where we look at what different belief systems say about the afterlife. We've been looking at really different beliefs since when? A couple of weeks ago. So we looked at different Christian denominations and what they say about the afterlife. We looked at what Islam teaches about the afterlife. We've looked at African spirituality. At some point, we'll touch on Scientology and many other belief systems. Today, we are looking at Judaism and what it teaches about the afterlife. As I said before, and I say all the time, I think we need to be more curious about this mystery called life. And I think part of being curious is asking the questions, being inquisitive, and just wanting to know, am I this physical body or am I more than this physical body? Whatever you believe in, I want to know if you actually believe in the afterlife. What are your beliefs around that? Do you think things just stop as soon as you stop breathing? Do you believe in reincarnation? Do you believe in eternal life, purgatory? What is it for you? You can call on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Rabbi Levi Afton is a senior rabbi at the Linksfield Synagogue who's going to guide us through today's conversation as we look at what Judaism teaches about the afterlife. I think from what I've seen before, there are sort of like, different schools of thought when it comes to the afterlife, death in Judaism. I think today, hopefully the rabbi will help us understand where those different positions stand. Rabbi Afton, thank you so much for making time for us. Really, really appreciate it. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Clement, and thank you for the opportunity, and good morning to the listeners.
Maybe let's start with you giving us a brief overview of how the concept of the afterlife fits into the Jewish belief.
So, it's a fascinating question. And often when people talk about the afterlife, I ask them the question, what about the before life? In other words, the question is not only where we go or if we go anywhere after we pass away. The question is, where do we come from? did we start at conception, and now the question is where we go after we die, or is it a different dimension that we came from at birth and we return to in a different form post-death? So Judaism believes very much that there's two universes. There's the physical, the flesh, the stuff we can touch, the world we're living in, the radio, we're talking to each other. And then there's a much deeper dimension, a dimension that cannot be seen, cannot be touched. But the spirit, what we call the spiritual world, just because we don't have a better word to describe it.
Mm.
And that's soul. Soul means the part of us that cannot be touched, cannot be seen, but if you ever held a baby in your hands, you know that the baby didn't just come into this world or wasn't just conceived 9 months ago and suddenly is so pure. There's this deep knowledge, thank God I had a child a few months ago, and my wife and I, and you hold this baby and you just have this knowledge that it came from somewhere.
Mm.
And if you've ever been at the moment of death or just before it, and as a rabbi, unfortunately, I've been there many times, you see often, sometimes, it's a very hectic, chaotic death, but most death is actually quite peaceful. And there's almost this feeling that there's a transition to another dimension.
Mm.
So the way we see it is that if we had real eyes, and what I mean real eyes is true perception, if we were real spiritual beings, the conversation would be the exact opposite. We wouldn't be asking, is there an afterlife? We would be asking, is this physical world real? Because the physical world is, just particles and DNA, and, the more we understand physics, the more we understand that almost none of it is actually real in the sense of the word. But the stuff that is real is soul and love and connection and eternity and love, and all these beautiful things that cannot be touched and seen, but we deeply believe is the truest sense of reality.
Mm. And is there like a single view of the afterlife in Judaism, or is there?
That's a great question.
Uh-huh.
So Judaism is very much it's an old religion. It's thousands of years old, and it's constantly evolving its thoughts. Now, evolving doesn't mean changing, but it means that over time, it gets expressed in different ways, etc. So there are various opinions throughout the sages. If you go as back to the Talmud and Jewish mysticism, there are various disagreements. There are certain principles they all agree on, but there are like subtle differences, which makes it fascinating.
Yeah. Okay. Let's look at what the belief then says about the influence of how, Jewish people live their daily lives or observe even religious practices. Because often, when you talk about that afterlife, there's often, and which will lead me to my next question also about the reward and punishment, because there's so much that's got to do with how we live our lives today that somehow has an influence and an explanation on what's possibly to come on the other side.
So that's amazing. So I'm going to take it from two different angles. Yes, we very much believe in reward and punishment, and we believe in this idea that after death, a person pays the account for what they've done. Judaism doesn't really believe in eternal damnation, the idea that someone's going to suffer forever unless they were extremely evil. There's a cleansing process. Usually it's seen as up to 12 months. That's why Jews have a custom to pray for their loved ones after they pass away. They say a prayer called the Kaddish for a year to help their beloved one, whether it was a parent, whoever it was, go through that transition. So we do believe in that idea of reward and punishment. But the other angle of it is we're very focused on this world rather than the world to come. In other words, we believe in the world to come, and it's very much a part of our philosophy. But we see the deep value of life itself, seeing, and let me explain why. If I only focus on the world to come, so then when I see imperfection in this world, I say, never mind, the world to come, everything will be great. And I almost abdicate my responsibility in this world. But if I see myself as a messenger, God sent me before I was born, before all of us were born, we were spiritual beings, and then God chooses to give us a body, put us into this physical world with all the temptations, etc. And he says, now go make this messy world a little better. So we're very focused, centric on this world. In other words, what can I do? An act of goodness and kindness in this world. I can't look at somebody who's, suffering or someone that's impoverished and sit there saying, oh, I don't have to help them. Don't worry, they'll get heaven. They're good. They're sorted. No, my job is I see someone hungry, I have to give them food. If I see someone suffering, I have to alleviate the suffering. So we believe in heaven, but we're also very much centric here. And that's why Judaism is so full of commandments, thou shalt and thou shalt not. It's a very action-based religion. It's not ascetic and, flying above the universe and escaping reality. It's very much in this world. Everything is very physical. The prayer is physical. The Sabbath is physical. The Passover Seder. Whatever we do, all our rituals have an emotional, spiritual dimension, but are fundamentally physically focused because our job is to refine this world.
Yeah. Okay. It's going up to 15 minutes now. Before 11 o'clock, Rabbi Levi Afton is a senior rabbi at the Linksfield Synagogue, guiding us through this conversation as we try to figure out what Judaism teaches about the afterlife. What questions do you have for Rabbi Afton? You can call us on 011-883-0702. Maybe you are Jewish and you practice Judaism. What are your thoughts on the afterlife? How does your life get governed based on how you're living now and what's expected based on what Judaism teaches about the afterlife? 011-883-0702. Alternatively, you can send your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is street ahead. Warrior Paints, affordable, lasting, luxury.
Hey, remember when our office turned into an indoor swimming pool from the flood incident we had? Oh yeah, feels like it was just yesterday. Luckily, we are with My Way Business Insurance and they kept us afloat despite the soaked carpets. Talk about an insurer that's got your back no matter the situation. Agreed. With My Way, we can weather any storm with the ultimate confidence.
Cover your building and office contents hassle-free with My Way Business Insurance. Visit myway.co.za for a quote and do business your way. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
Celebrate Mother's Day on Sunday, the 11th of May at Nyrox's Winter Sculpture Fair. Experience an Italian-flavored day out with art, music, wine, gourmet food, and good living. The event will feature a tribute to the life's work and influence of Eduardo Villa, an ambitious exhibition featuring large-scale works across the park and indoor galleries. Villa's enduring legacy is reflected through contemporary luminaries such as Nicolas Slobo, Willem Boshoff, and William Kendridge. Limited tickets are available from nyroxarts.com. Nyrox is a private not-for-profit foundation to benefit the arts. All income is used to maintain the grounds, the artist residency program, and artist support.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
It's 12 minutes now before 11 o'clock. We are in the middle of the discussion about the afterlife and what Judaism teaches about it. Previously, over the last couple of weeks, we've looked at what different Christian denominations believe about the afterlife. We've looked at what Islam teaches about the afterlife, focused on African spirituality, and today we're focusing on Judaism. Want to hear from you, though, on 072-702-1702 or WhatsApps on 011-883-0702. That's where you can call. That WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Here's one.
Good morning, Clement. My belief with the afterlife, to me, I know that there are three stages of life. The first stage will be when you are in your father's loins. In that period, you are alive as a sperm, and then before you enter into your mother's womb, when the sperm goes into the egg, there is a zinc explosion whereby you die, and you will now reincarnate, or you will have a second life in your mother's womb. But that's where you will live, in your mother's womb, and you will spend close to 9 to 10 months in your mother's womb. That is life. There is life inside your mother's womb. And then the second stage will be when you leave, when you are alive as a human being in this world, and then that will ultimately take you to the last stage of life, where you will die, and then you'll be buried in the tomb, and then you will get a new life that is an everlasting life, a spiritual life. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much for your input. What do you believe about the afterlife? You can share that with us as well on the WhatsApp line or through a call as well. Rabbi, I've got a few questions here from some of our listeners. I know you touched a little bit on this. Maybe you can just re-emphasize it. Someone who's asking about just the concept of judgment or reward, or the concept of hell versus heaven. What does Judaism teach about that?
Okay, great question. So often we use words. The word like hell has different meanings for different people. So we believe that everything we do in this world has immense consequences. Both the good and the opposite. Whatever we do has impact, right? If I bring love and compassion to people, I make the world a better place. If I cause pain, I literally cause that individual and the world hurt. And at some stage, a person pays for the choices they make. Otherwise, there's no free choice, which is a whole separate conversation. Free choice means I make choices and I pay the consequences. But in some religions, the idea is very much I made bad choices and therefore unredeemable. I can never really climb back out. Judaism, on the other hand, believes that a person after death, their soul will pay, not necessarily pay, but go through a cleansing process. And the process is not so much to punish them, but as to get them ready for their reward. Because the goal is that everyone has to eventually come to a place that they can get rewarded for the good that they've done. But we also tarnish ourselves, we blemish our soul by the mistakes and the bad decisions we make. So according to Judaism, there is the idea that a person goes through what's called Gehenna, which is a huge body of literature, but fundamentally the idea is it cleanses the soul. It's a spiritual cleansing that allows the soul then to go into its place of eternal rest.
Morning, Chad in Johannesburg here. I would just like to ask, please, is it true that the afterlife has similarities to the subconscious mind? The same, basically, space that we go to during dreams, during REM sleep?
All right, thank you
for
that question. Yeah, Rabbi?
So interesting. The Talmud tells us, the Talmud is the main body of Jewish thought and law. It says that sleep is 1/60th of death. What it means is that we tap into, at least in a small way, the dimension that we will tap into once a person passes on. And when we're asleep, it's almost like our soul goes back to its source to get rejuvenated for the next morning and for the journey of the next day. So each day is a mini life, and each evening is a mini death. And yes, we believe that there is this idea that we're constantly going and connecting to the other side of ourselves. And I mentioned earlier in the show that it's important when we talk about afterlife to talk about before life. And the reason I brought that up is because if I realize that there's always two parts of me, even when I'm in this physical world, I'm not just flesh. I'm not just a physical body that's, with all the physical needs of mine. I have a spiritual dimension even here that I could tap into. And that spiritual dimension has been with me before I was born and will be with me after I die. And the truth is, it's the only part of me that's eternal, because my body, once that my time comes up, it's going to be gone. But my soul is eternal. So when I realize that, and I realize I'm always connected to my soul, and if I tap into my spiritual dimension, my holiness, my inner refinement, then yes, I'm very much tapping into the afterlife in this very world.
And then someone else is asking you to clarify more about what you said earlier about the cleansing process. You said that That's why you've asked. You pray for like a year for the souls that have people that have passed. What happens? Like, what do you believe in Judaism happens during that cleansing process? Are you asking for the people to be accepted in, I don't know, a version of heaven of sorts, for people to be cleansed?
So first of all, yes, we're asking them to be able to go quicker into heaven, but also we're asking that whatever process they have to go through, because fundamentally, when they go into heaven, which is the most beautiful, refined, holy place, they have to be clean. That soul has to be cleansed. So if they're going through the cleansing process, we're praying for our loved one. Please, God, make the journey not too painful for them. Please let them go through it as, without pain, without grief, they obviously are going to go through some journey. Just like when a soul comes into this world, they go through a journey 9 months in their mother's womb, which is almost like downloading the soul into the physical world. They now have to upgrade their soul back into the spiritual dimension, back into heaven. So we pray. A few years ago, my father passed away, and for 11 months, each morning and each afternoon, I would go to synagogue and I would say a prayer, just like many, many Jews do, and it's called a Kaddish. And basically, I'm almost sending love and power back to my dad. And we're told not only through Kaddish, if I take on a good deed, if I do acts of kindness, if I do charity in his memory, I'm literally helping him in whatever transition he has to go through.
Okay, got it. We've got a call from Colin, who's calling us from Soweto in Orlando West. Colin, what's your question? Good morning.
Morning, Clement. I hope you're fine. I'm fine.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. About cremation. I want to know the rabbi, man, what happens or what is cremation, about cremation.
Okay.
What is the belief of the Judaism about cremation? We tell a person is cremated.
All right. What do they believe about cremation? And I must say, Rabbi, there are a few other messages coming through on the WhatsApp line asking exactly this question about cremation. Someone was asking that, should I be cremated? Will my afterlife be as if I have a natural death? So lots of questions about cremation. What does Judaism teach about that?
So Judaism is not a fan of cremation. Judaism, based on the Bible, there's a verse that says, you came from the dust and you should return to the dust. Right? If you read the story in Genesis, God created Adam from the dust. And Judaism has always believed that we have to return the body in its dignity. We received it in dignity and we have to return it in dignity. And giving it back to the earth where we came from is the dignified way. And Judaism has always believed in natural burial, the way we've done it for thousands of years, rather than cremation. Because it's an act of honor to the body. And I just want to add to one point, because it hasn't come up yet, the idea of resurrection. Judaism believes that, please God, one day when the Messiah comes, the time of redemption, all souls that passed away, all people that passed away, will come back into the physical world in their bodies. Now, obviously, most people's bodies in the ground has decayed, but nevertheless, we're told that if they treated the body in dignity and buried it in the ground, then the body is still, in some dimension, still there, and when the soul comes back for the resurrection, it will come back into the body. So Judaism has always been very against cremation because it says it's not your body to do anything with. It's God's body, and the body still has to come back one day for resurrection. So put it back to where it belongs and let nature do what it needs to do.
Okay. Rabbi Levi Afton, thank you so much for joining us this morning. He's a senior rabbi at the Linksfield Synagogue, just helping us understand what Judaism teaches about the afterlife. Next week, around the same time on Monday, we're going to bring in another belief system in here, what that believes about the afterlife. It's now 2 minutes before 11 o'clock.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3,247. My financial advisor asked if I was expecting any inheritance. I said, I don't have a trust fund, but I trust that funds will find their way to my bank account. He was not amused.
Recently removed from the family payroll? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
Clement is on X
At The Real Clement M.
All right, coming up after the news at 11 o'clock, we're going to get into our Family Matters feature. And today we're going to be talking about how to support a loved one who is living with a terminal diagnosis, and also how to support the whole family, because a terminal diagnosis of a loved one is one of the most shattering realities, not only for the person, but for you as the family as well. So families are suddenly thrust into this cycle of hope, some of despair. You have to give, like, there's caregiving involved, there's fear involved, there's sorrow. And it's in those moments that we can forget about the importance of just navigating that as a collective, as a family. But also sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves. So this is what we're going to be looking at after the news at 11 o'clock. And if you have been in a situation like that where a loved one was diagnosed perhaps with a terminal diagnosis, a terminal illness, how did you navigate it as a family? Because sometimes as the firstborn or as an elder, you end up being more worried about how everybody else is doing, including the person who is suffering from that illness, and not so much about yourself. You know, some people choose to just put it at the back of their heads because they just can't begin to start that, because some people start mourning even before there's a death that occurs. How have you navigated that? How are you navigating now, if that's your reality now? I want you to share your thoughts with us by calling us or sending us a WhatsApp voice note in this hour. It's 11 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sifiso Ndlovu. Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenga's future hangs in the balance as the probe into his conduct continues. Mbenenga is today set to appear before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal again for his after his alleged sexual harassment complaint was laid against him. The top judge is accused of making unwanted sexual advances towards High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo between 2021 and 2022. The hearings will sit for 2 weeks in Sandton. Zolga Kotashe has more.
The establishment of the tribunal has triggered the Section 177 process of the Constitution, which provides for the removal of a judge from office. If the tribunal makes a gross misconduct finding against the top judge, it will present a report to the Judicial Service Commission that will consider it and may confirm the finding of the tribunal. The Constitution provides 3 grounds upon which a judge can be impeached, one of which is gross misconduct, another being gross incompetence, and the last being that a judge suffers from an incapacity. Therefore, if the finding of guilt is made against a judge and the JSC confirms it, it will then go to the National Assembly, which has to vote on the matter. Only a 2/3 majority has to vote in favor of the impeachment. Thereafter, the President has to act on the decision of the legislative body and addresses a letter to the judge explaining the date upon which they will cease to be such. Zolega Kodashe, Eyewitness News.
ANC Gauteng Provincial Co-Convener Panyaza Lesufi says the party won't take any shortcuts on service delivery as it prepares for the upcoming local government elections. Lesufi, who is also Gauteng Premier, made the remarks during the closing of a 2-day Lekgotla in Joburg yesterday. The party met to address some of its challenges ahead of the provincial conference, as well as to prepare for its strategy for the local government elections. Lesufi says there is a renewed commitment to reclaim the ANC's top spots in the province by going back to the basic of delivering services and including addressing what he calls the Gauteng 13+1.
We've added them to be Gauteng 13+1 in order to accommodate the sinkholes that have ravaged the municipality of Mirafong and part of Tshwane.
He says the provision of water and electricity, addressing lawlessness and fixing infrastructure remain key priorities.
We are proud to report that on each and every issue, all our commissions in the last 2 days, they were hard at work in making firm proposals that we'll share with them later as we consolidate the report of this Lekgotla.
Action SA has warned that other companies will suffer the same fate as ArcelorMittal if government fails to implement speedy economic reforms to help keep key industries afloat. The loss-making steelmaker has run into trouble over recent years, likely due to weak economic growth, high logistics and energy costs, as well as an influx of low-cost steel imports. Thousands of jobs at the company's long steel factories have been saved for now due to a 1.6 billion rand loan from the Industrial Development Corporation. Despite the lifeline that has deferred closure of some ArcelorMittal plants, the company remains on shaky ground. Action SA MP Ellen Bisley says if there is no overhaul of industry policy, more manufacturers will also buckle under pressure.
The latest ABSA purchasing index released by the Bureau for Economic Research reflects 6 months of contraction within the manufacturing sector. In this regard, it's imperative that the Finance Minister must deliver real economic reform in Budget 3.0. The manufacturing sector needs real economic reform.
And some environmental groups are expected to picket in some parts of the country today as lobby group Green Connection heads to the Western Cape High Court to challenge offshore oil and gas exploration on the coast. The legal proceedings will determine whether authorization will be given to Total Energies South Africa to begin exploration for oil and gas between Cape Town and Cape Agulhas. Pickets are set to take place in Cape Town, Johannesburg, some parts of KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. Green Connections Advocacy Officer Lisa Makaula says government has failed to properly assess the environmental risks of the exploration projects.
Given that as a country also we are on our pathway of moving away from fossil fuel projects, we do not think that the need and desirability of this project was properly done, given that we have also signed some international climate agreements.
Gold is trading at $3,263.73 an ounce. The rand is at 18.40 to the dollar, 24.43 to the pound, 20.83 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $59.54 a barrel.
In Braamfontein, heading into the Joburg CBD, bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M1 southbound between the Killarney Bends and the double-decker section. Also slow-moving traffic leaving the Joburg CBD. That's on the M2 westbound between the Crown Exchange and Main Reef Road, and still look out for those faulty traffic lights in Edenville at Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeek.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 21 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Eastern Cape Judge President Salbin Benenga's future hangs in the balance as an investigation into his conduct continues.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. 702.
We're listening to you. You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 11 o'clock, Dumelang, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for sticking with us here on 702. Time for our Family Matters feature.
702.
Family Matters.
So on our Family Matters feature this morning, we are talking about terminal diagnosis. How do you support a loved one living with a terminal diagnosis? How do you support a family that has to deal with a loved one who lives with a terminal diagnosis? There are often times when this is a reality for a lot of families and they are fearful of what comes next. And it's in those moments that families have got to navigate this painful journey and support their loved ones compassionately and care, even for their own mental health as individuals, but also as a unit as well. So today, we have invited Jeannie Cave, who is a clinical psychologist, to just guide us through this conversation about how families must deal with such devastating news. And is there even an opportunity for the families to treat this not as devastating, but as an opportunity to enjoy the last moments? There are some families that are often hopeful when they are told of a terminal diagnosis, especially in cases where doctors have been so clear about even the amount of time a family member has in order to live. How do you do that as a family? It must be difficult. So how do you support one another? How do you stay connected, even in the face of that goodbye? So if you have a loved one who's been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and you've dealt with this before, please give us a call on 011-883-0702 to share your experience with us. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. How did it affect the family unit? What are some of the ways to even emotionally support a family member who knows that they're dying? Many of them will try be hopeful sometimes. Some of them are going to be in denial sometimes. What's your role as a loved one? How do you support someone who is caught up in a situation like that? Give us a call on 011-883-0702. Jeannie Cave is a clinical psychologist. She's going to guide us through this chat. Thank you for making time, Jeannie. Welcome back to the show.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's always such a pleasure to connect with you guys.
What are from even your own experience and maybe even cases you've dealt with, what are some of the most common responses family members have when a loved one is diagnosed with a terminal illness?
So I think that it all depends on what kind of survival strategies this person has integrated throughout their lifetime, and their nervous system's usual way of responding. So for some people, the trigger of your loved one being diagnosed with a terminal illness, the trigger of that will be, what will become of me? What will become of me? What will be expected of me? And the trigger is the helplessness of the situation. For some people, it might be the unknown and the feeling of not having control. For some people, it might be the needs of the other person, or who and how will our family be if we are no longer these members of the family. So it depends on what is the nature of the stress or the trigger, the emotional experience that is overwhelming. So some people will go into a freeze response and feel quite immobilized, and we might call that denial, but we must also remember that denial is an important part of being brave. Some people might jump into action and try and do everything that they can within their power to solve the problem. And some people might disappear in terms of their own needs and start over-functioning to meet the needs of their family and everybody around them. So there can be very different responses, because this is not news that people hear in the normal course of the human experience. All of us know vaguely, conceptually, abstractly that we're going to die. But when we get told that we're going to die, or that our loved one is going to die, we no longer have the lovely, soft, warm blanket of denial that helps us to live our lives and be courageous. We no longer have that. We now have too much information, and the very vague, sort of abstract idea of our mortality becomes a tangible and immediate reality. And it's far beyond our bandwidth to process that amount of information. So it causes a huge disruption and dysregulation to the nervous system. And obviously on a not only a survival level, but also an emotional and a relational level. And it depends on how does that person normally or under duress, how do they vanquish the stressor? Is it through withdrawing? Is it through becoming quite frozen? Is it through powerful action, fight or flight, doing as much as I can? Or is it through caring for everybody and doing their best to maintain harmony?
Yeah. So sometimes what happens is that there's sort of like this anticipatory grief. How does it manifest, and how is it different from the normal grief after death?
So the anticipatory grief is from that shock of your mortality no longer being an abstract concept, or your loved one's mortality no longer being an abstract concept, but an imminent reality of, we don't know exactly when, but we do have a very good guess as to why or how this person is going to die, likely from this illness. And that's actually not any different to all of us. All of us know that we are going to die. We just don't know when or how. But that doesn't mean we're not going to die. The anticipatory grief is from the removal of that not knowing. And we then grieve the not knowing. And we then grieve our dreams of the future with this person, whether it's the parent or the child. And we start to grieve what we thought things were going to be like. We grieve the loss of the lovely soft warm blanket of denial, and we start to think that if we can prepare ourselves, we can more easily overcome or survive the loss of the person. So you actually, when you get a terminal diagnosis, you actually lose the person twice.
Sure.
You lose them at the time of the diagnosis, and then you also lose them when they physically do die, because the future that you had dreamed of, that all of that planning, all of that investment, all of those possibilities, there's a death of that. And that is what is the anticipatory grief.
Yeah. You mentioned two things earlier that I just wanted clarity on. One, you said that denial is an important part of being brave. Please, can you expand more on that?
So, it was actually many years ago when I was first practicing, and I had a lot of terminally ill clients that were terminally ill with cancer and palliative care. And I went to my mentor at the time, and I'd say, I don't know why, but they're talking about like the fact that, the shop didn't have their favorite brand of toothpaste. Or they're talking about, the most rudimentary argument with their partner. I'm like, but this person knows they're dying. Shouldn't we be talking about like the bigger ticket items? Like, what do you think happens after you die? Or what kind of legacy do you want to leave? Or shouldn't we be talking about that? And my very wise mentor said to me, but Jeannie, denial is an important part of being brave. So if you accept the death now, if you fully accept it, there would be no point in carrying on. So instead of thinking about it as denial, it is thinking about it as living parallel to this information, but living as if this information is it's not happening now, it's happening in the future, but living in this moment. And in this moment, I'm unhappy that my petunias aren't blossoming. In this moment, I'm annoyed that my husband, didn't message my mother for her birthday. And it's about living in this moment parallel to the information about what is likely to happen in the future. And that's an important part of being courageous and carrying on. And if we give the diagnosis, if that becomes our reality in this moment, it means we are already dead. Right? It is not a reality in this moment, so it's a reality that is likely in the future, but in this moment, it isn't happening. And how can we carry on? How can we keep endeavoring to be alive if in this moment we are actually already dead? And that's what I meant by denial is an important part of being brave. And denial, I like to think of it more as living parallel to the information that you've been given, rather than living as if that information is happening in this moment.
I see. You spoke earlier also about how sometimes some people forget about their own needs and they start focusing on the care and needs of others. Because, I mean, there's so much that you're doing for the person who has been diagnosed with this terminal illness, but sometimes there's so much you're doing for maybe the kids or maybe for your siblings or for your friends, and that you're forgetting to also take some time to also deal with your emotions. So how can families just support each other while caring for someone who is terminally ill? And how can we also remember to support ourselves?
So when we talk about the people who are the ones who are likely to become invisible to themselves and focus on the needs of others, I like to think of those people as nesting birds. So nesting birds are the ones who want to build the nest for everybody else, and they sometimes then forget to build the nest for themselves. And so when people are nesting birds, it's very important for them to remember that they can only build that nest if they have the resources to build the nest. They can only build the nest if they've got enough strength in their wings to fly, to go and find those twigs. So that person, giving them a space in which you're not demanding anything of them, but giving them a lot of breathing room in which they can take a step back and ask, what is it that I really need in order to continue caring for everybody else, would be a wonderful way of supporting that person. So we want to try to stay away from narratives of like, well, you can't pour from an empty cup. We rather want to say, you're doing such beautiful work in really supporting your child, or really supporting your partner. And I'm just wondering if we take a breath in for a moment, in that moment between breath in and breath out, what is it that you could need right now that would help you do that even more effectively? So I call this standing with the grain of the person's survival style, rather than trying to work against it. So people might say, sometimes you have to be selfish, and you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to look after yourself too. And for a person who is surviving through nesting, that's never going to appeal to their survival strategy. Instead, we rather say, okay, in order to carry on doing that, there is a moment between the breath in and the breath out. There's a moment where we have to pull the arrow back before we can release it. What could make that moment between the breath in and the breath out, what could make that the most resourced for you so that you can continue to care for everyone in the effective way that you have? So that we don't try to take away people's feelings of being able to survive in times like this where there is a terminal diagnosis that's been given.
Yeah. Okay. I want to just take some calls as well in WhatsApps on 011-883-0702. That's the number you can dial us on. The WhatsApp line is 0727021702. Are you the person that's been diagnosed with a terminal illness? Were you there before? How did you navigate that? How are you navigating that right now? And I know sometimes when you are the person diagnosed with a terminal illness, sometimes it really gets overwhelming, the amount of support you get. And because everybody, and most of the time they mean well, they just want what's best for you. But sometimes you wish they could know that you've got agency, and there's still things you can do for yourself, or, they must not start, talking about you in front of you as if you don't hear them, or making certain choices for you. So how have you navigated that? But also, if you are someone who has had a loved one who is diagnosed with a terminal illness, how have you navigated just caring for them, supporting each other as a family, but also dealing with your emotions internally as well? You can give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note. We'll start with your questions and your inputs after this. It's 22 minutes after 11.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
Are the budgets for fixing up buildings, doing maintenance and so on, are they separate from the budgets that are used to pay for rentals? I mean, would there be an administrative or fiscal difficulty in repurposing that money?
Some of this building that really belongs to us. I think it's just a matter of willingness from their end, the leadership from the department, as well as from the province as a whole, because I would imagine that surely as a premier, you should have an interest to prioritize using your own asset.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Dear Journal, adulting, day 3,700 and whatever. Just bought a bunch of supplements I can't pronounce to try and fix my sleep schedule. What a game changer. So chuffed I spotted them when I was doom scrolling at 11:53 p.m.
Finally learning about mental health. Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's convenient and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
Whether you need some high nose for your hauls or looking to make your bucks in UD trucks, Bidvest McCarthy has your fleet covered. We can even enable you with some FAW or set you up with LDV to get you where you want to be. There is no fleet too big or too small. Our people will help you with it all. Whatever requirements you have to complete your fleet, Bidvest McCarthy is ready to deliver. Bidvest McCarthy, our people deliver, always.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana approving a 2 billion rand guarantee to protect the funds of Itala Bank's more than 200,000 retail clients.
So the process seems to be speaking to that question of those depositors whose money has been stuck in the system need to be able to access it. They won't be able to use Itala infrastructure, so some other bank is going to be appointed to do that, which was the same issue we saw in VBS.
Kaya Sithole, independent political analyst.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa 2025. ABSA is a registered FSP. Your story matters. 702. Let's walk the talk.
702.
Family Matters.
26 minutes now after 11 o'clock. We're taking your calls on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 0727021702. I've got a question here, Jeannie, from, is it Anonymous, who says, hi, Clement. A friend began grieving the mom when she got the diagnosis, which made her start to detach from the mom while still she was alive. In her mind, she was preparing herself to live without her, but missed on the last moments with her. But now she is gone. She doesn't know how to grieve and is blaming herself for not enjoying and making the most of the time that was left. Grief is so terrible. The question is, how does one support a loved one who is grieving twice and doesn't want to seek counseling?
It's your friend is really blessed to have such a caring friend, such as yourself, who really sees her in her struggle and the paradox. So when you receive a terminal diagnosis, it's the ultimate paradox. And by paradox, we mean it's an instruction that's got the opposite effect of its intention. And when we have a paradox like a terminal illness, there's actually a technical psychological term for it. It means called double bind. And a double bind means that there are two sets of rules on the table, and and they contradict each other, and whichever set of rules you respond to, you're wrong according to the other. So when we have a terminal diagnosis, we're told that we are dying. So we are all dying. It's just a fact of life. But when you're told you're dying, you are simultaneously expected to live, and you are simultaneously aware that you are going to die. So if you behave in accordance to the rule that you're going to die, you're breaking the rule that you are alive. And if you live according to the rule that you're alive, you're breaking the rule that you're going to die. And so it is the ultimate paradox. And your friend is living that paradox. And it really also depends on the nature of the illness. So if your friend's mom was diagnosed with an illness that was very degenerative, really a person becomes incredibly ill, incredibly quickly, and for a very long time, then it would be an illusion to think that she could have enjoyed that time with her mum. If a person gets a terminal diagnosis and they're going to be well for a while until they're not and they die very quickly, then you could enjoy that time. But for your friend to think that if she had dealt with it in any other way, that she would have better feelings or less difficult grief is really, that's an illusion, because we don't know that. We don't know how it would have been different had she ignored the rule that her mother is dying and participated in the rule that her mother is alive. So we don't know that. We also don't know from what this person has sent in of what was the nature of the mother's illness, how ill was she, was it even possible to enjoy that time? And we don't know. Maybe that time of separation, of getting used to not having her mom so actively in her life, could have even been a relief for her mother, who was terminally ill, to see that her daughter was starting to cope without her, and gave her a little bit of peace in that time of not being so actively needed in her daughter's life. So that detachment before her mom died could have actually been a relief to her dying mom, to see, okay, my daughter will be fine without me because she's starting to create that distance, and I don't feel like I'm abandoning her. So there's so much that we don't know. We don't know if it could have been better. We don't know if it was even possible to enjoy that time. And that's one of the most difficult things about grief, is the unknown. None of us knows. Some people are very convinced and have very strong beliefs, but none of us knows as a fact, like the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, what goes up must come down. None of us knows for a fact what happens after we die. Nobody knows what that is like. It's just too many things that we can't fathom. And so we start to do what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross calls in her beautiful seminal work on death and dying, we start to bargain. So we start to say, oh, well, if I had enjoyed that time with my mom, my grief would be better now. Or she could have had a better quality of life. Or I regret doing that. That is what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross calls the bargaining phase of grief. Because there are so many unknowns, we run all these scenarios through our heads, but there is no evidence that had your friend approached the situation in any other way, that her grief would be easier or better now.
Yeah.
And she might be sitting with the feeling of, oh gosh, I never acknowledged how sick my mom was. She could have felt so unconfirmed in that time. We don't know, and that's what makes it so difficult. So to just let your friend know that there's nothing that can make it better. There's only ways that we can make it worse. And running scenarios in our heads of unknowns as if they were realities, that is a way that we can make the grieving process worse for ourselves. But there's no way that we can make it better. That we can only learn to endure and find ways to live with it and find ways to live parallel to it long enough for us to re-find meaning of who we are as a person without this person physically present, to overcome the trauma of their actual passing, and to reorganize ourselves as a system without this person here physically able to participate. So I hope I've answered that question of your friend in the bargaining phase there. I feel guilty, I should have enjoyed that time. But we have no idea. It might have been a relief for the dying mom to see that her daughter was going to be okay without her.
Yeah. Okay, that takes us to 11:32. We'll continue with more of your questions, your inputs, as we continue talking about supporting a loved one living with a terminal diagnosis, or supporting each other as a family as well. Keep your calls and your WhatsApps coming. We'll start with them after the headlines. Mbali, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. A very good morning. Power utility Eskom has assured South Africans of a stable supply of electricity during the winter months. It says if the system encounters any problems, it hopes to limit power cuts to stage 2. The utility provided an outlook update of the power system ahead of the colder winter months. President Cyril Ramaphosa has defended the Employment Equity Act, saying it prohibits unfair discrimination and also corrects past inequalities. Ramaphosa says South Africa's labour laws are also part of the government's efforts over the last 3 decades to overcome the structural inequality of apartheid. And some environmental groups are expected to stage pickets in parts of the country today as lobby group Green Connection heads to the Western Cape High Court to challenge offshore oil and gas exploration on the coast. The legal proceedings will determine whether authorization will be given to Total Energies South Africa to begin exploration for oil and gas in the Cape. Those are the headlines this EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Heading into the Joburg CBD, there's about a 30-minute delay. That's in the Bramfontein area on the M1 southbound between Killarney Bends and the double-decker section. Otherwise, the rest of Gauteng, not looking too bad. No serious accidents have been reported on our highways. Just look out for those faulty traffic lights, though. Edenville, Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck, as well as in Midrand at Old Victoria Road and Ellendale. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Selling your car has never been easier. WeBuyCars will come to you and buy your ride wherever you are. Simply complete the form on webuycars.co.za for an offer. They'll buy your vehicle even if it's still under finance. Looking for your next ride? Well, shop pre-loved vehicles on webuycars.co.za or any branch nationwide. Whatever you're buying or selling, visit WeBuyCars today.
Running a small business doesn't mean you face small problems. That's why you need Smart SME by Santam. It's tailor-made insurance built for small businesses. Even you, the plumber whose vehicle becomes a food truck on weekends. Or you, the beautician, wearing many hats. We cover the all in small business. Visit santam.co.za or SMS Smart SME to 34852 to get a quote. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
When using the road, take extra caution when using dangerous roads. Please note that these are some of South Africa's high-risk roads. R61 Mbizana in Eastern Cape, N1 Mkopane in Limpopo, N4 Vosman in Mpumalanga, N4 Nelspruit in Mpumalanga. You can help to reduce road crashes and save lives. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
This isn't just a walk, it's a journey through memory, through meaning. The 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns on Sunday, the 27th of July. Walk from the hallowed grounds of Freedom Park to the southern lawns of the Union Buildings and some of our capital city's most iconic landmarks. Choose from 8 kilometer, 6.7 kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or 4 kilometer for something lighter. Entry is 360 Rand for adults and 200 Rand for kids under 12. There's no parking at the start or at the end, so book your park and ride from Joburg or Pretoria when you enter. Sign up on primemediaplus.com before the 26th of July. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. Walk with meaning. Walk with us.
Coming up
on 702 Afternoons.
24 minutes before 12 o'clock on 702 Afternoons between 1 and 3 p.m. Jono will be standing in for Relebohile today. How are you doing, Jono?
I'm good, thanks, Clem. You good?
I'm all right, man. What's popping today on the show?
Well, today and I think throughout the week on the Relebohile Mabocha show, we've got an amazing competition that we're going to be running with SPA. And it's going to be focusing on the home care professionals. These are the ladies who run the homes, look after the kids, do all the things, busy mothers and fathers are not able to. And often they're overlooked. And also the other thing is that whilst they're looking after your kids and your home, they're missing out on, the things that their kids are doing and, their own life stories as well. So we're going to ask our 702 listeners to nominate their home care professional. who they are, why they are so special, and then hopefully they will stand a chance of winning a 5,000 Rand Spa voucher.
Oh,
so
great.
that will be coming up on the show. Then in our open line, we're going to be talking about something that's been going around on the social channels, and this is asking people to rank in order the importance of your people in your life. So whether it's your mother, your wife or your girlfriend, or your child. And there's some interesting views in terms of how people are ranking that. So I'm going to ask our 702 listeners to rank their preferences. And also, if you are in a relationship with somebody who ranks, let's say, the mother as the first priority, how difficult is that for you? Then on the features, we've got every Monday, it's the movies and what's a stream with Phil Mpela. He's going to be talking to us about some of the new stuff coming out on some of the social streams. And then at 10 to 2, we've got the travel feature. And this is going to be about the Africa's first ever glamping expo. Glamping, that's really luxurious camping, but there's an expo about it. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Then after 2, it's the parenting and parents feature. And we're going to be chatting about the impact of involuntary childlessness. Now, this is people who can't have kids because of certain medical issues. So many things to unpack in that one. And then towards the end of the show, as always on a Monday, we've got the Naked Scientist with Dr. Chris to take all your questions you've ever wanted the answers for.
All right, that's what's coming up on 702 Afternoons with Kabazela between 1 and 3 p.m.
702.
Family Matters.
All right, let's continue with our Family Matters feature this morning. I'm going to go straight to some WhatsApp texts now that have come through. I've got a message from Samu who says, "Hi Clement, Mitch Albom's book, Tuesdays with Maury, is the best handbook on life, death and dying. It's life lessons from the perspective of a dying man. Maury preaches being present and making the most out of the time we have with loved ones." That's a message there from Samu in Morningside. Jeannie, I don't know if you've got some thoughts on that. I think the previous listener also spoke about, someone who, wasn't sure on, okay, do I make the most of this time with you? Because also, how do you rationalize that? Because it's almost like you have now accepted that this person will be gone soon. So you do as much as you can with them now, or you just live in hope. For some people, they just put it at the back of their heads. They don't want to deal with the reality that this is a situation that can occur in the family.
So I think, once again, shouldn't we all be living, within our capacity to become our most authentic selves and being as fully present to the moment as possible? So I think that's one of the messages of Tuesdays with Maury is about what is the difference between living in the past, the present, and the future, that we can learn from the past without having to relive it. We can know that the stove is hot without the blister reappearing on our hands, and that we cannot solve the future in this moment. We might have information about what is to come, but trying to solve the future in this moment is like trying to eat a meal before you've even gotten to the restaurant, and that's a paradox. We can't do that. I think that one of the difficulties is that, when somebody has a terminal illness, they're probably going to be quite sick. So making the most of the time might not fit with a picture in your head of what making the most of that time means. So people have got different trajectories with their terminal illnesses. Some it will be quite a steady decline of degeneration. Some it will be absolutely fine until they're not. Some of it will be ups and downs. So I think that one of the criticism, Tuesdays with Maury's seminal work is hugely emotive. It's got a very, very accessible philosophy around being present to the moment. We see that philosophy in many philosophies around living well, mindfulness, being prepared for the future without trying to solve the future now, learning from the past without having to relive it, the importance of connection, the importance of presence, and the fact that none of us actually knows when it's our time, and that we have to deal with the information that's on the table. However, we do have to take into consideration that there are a lot of complexities when somebody has been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and making the most of that time is an oversimplification, because we don't know what that time is going to entail. We don't know if that person is going to be well enough to travel. We don't know if that person is going to be in a lot of pain. We don't know if that person is going to be able, are they going to be lucid? Are they going to be able to connect with you? So I think it is just about a philosophy really to inspire those who are well to live mindfully and to live presently. And when we have been given a terminal diagnosis, it might be, okay, the terminal diagnosis is Huntington's. All right, what does that mean for me in the present? It might mean that I choose not to have children, but I'm going to probably live quite well until I don't. Or the terminal diagnosis is, okay, you've got stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I'm going to get sick very quickly and be very sick until I die, and that's going to be rapid. And what does making the most of that time look like? It might mean that we make the most of the quiet moments. It might mean that the person, we just are peacefully quiet next to the person. It might not mean that we're taking those bucket list trips. But for some people, it might be that that's available. So I think it really depends on the situation and how well is the person in order to make the most of their time. But I think it's a very valuable lesson for us in terms of making the most of connection, and without valuing connection based on the anticipated or predicted outcome. That connection only exists in this moment, and just because we know that this person is not going to be physically here later, that doesn't mean that we are unable to connect with them where they are, as they are, within their capacity in this moment, and with ourselves. So to the previous person that contacted and said, they feel so guilty about not making the most of that time and grieving their mum, maybe that was the best way that they could deal with it. I've had other clients and friends whose loved ones were quite well, and they had beautiful times together, and that was really very blessed and fortunate for them. But others whose parents die or loved ones die or children die of very degenerative but very prolonged illnesses in which the person isn't quite the same as themselves, and then you can't really make the most in what you previously thought of as the most. So it's something that has to be continuously redefined and iterative based on the information that's on the table in this moment.
Yeah. And then what about like the dignity and autonomy of the person who is now diagnosed? So how can families help terminally ill persons retain that dignity and autonomy during those final stages? Because as I said, everybody just tends to focus so much on that person who's been diagnosed with a terminal illness, to a point that decisions are made for them, and sometimes, they don't mean any harm, but as the person on the receiving end, it can really be a lot sometimes, where you just think, but I can make that decision myself, or you don't have to whisper around me as if I don't hear. So how do families manage that?
There's quite a nice principle, which is don't talk about me in front of me. And I think we need to just also have some compassion that everyone's embarking from fear, and everyone's embarking from the fear of the unknown, and everyone's embarking from the best that they can, the best that they can cope with this very not usual part of the human experience. There's a good reason why we don't know when and how we're going to die, or else it would be very difficult to live. So getting that information is complete sensory overload, is complete nervous system overload. So it really depends on, and I think it all comes down to being very person-centered. So letting the person lead through their experience within their capacity. So person-centeredness is all about three things: congruence, which is saying what you mean and meaning what you say. It's also about following the principles of the allocation and distribution of interpersonal power between us based on the structure of the system, but it's also about being appropriate to the context. The person-centered approach is also about empathy and perspective taking. So being able to see something from another person's perspective and understand the emotional experience of that person. And then the final part, or the final primary tenet of the person-centered approach, is unconditional positive regard, which is giving people the benefit of the doubt, being non-judgmental and not projecting our experience onto other people. And this leads me back to a very important point, which is that a person diagnosed with a terminal illness, it's not the person that's being diagnosed with a terminal illness, it's the family system. So it is about everybody. It's not just about the person who is ill, it is about everybody, because it's something that affects absolutely everybody in the system. And yes, we do need to always respect everybody's agency and autonomy within the appropriateness and their capacity, but that goes the same for the caregivers, that goes the same for the loved ones, that goes the same for the parents, as long as we are constantly all looking out for each other and looking after each other through congruence, empathy, and unconditional positive regard, there can be balance in the system of connection, of cooperation, and collaboration. But a terminal illness is not something that happens to a person, it's something that happens to a system. One person is going to be carrying that symptom, they're going to be carrying that diagnosis, but that diagnosis is something that everybody in the system is living with. And families that can retain a sense of person-centeredness for each other can retain their connection, can retain their ability to work together and come to consensus, and can and avoid fracture, and can work together to support one another in an interdependent system as they go through this very unusual, unnatural, and unique human experience of living with information about dying.
Yeah. Lulama, you are calling us from Woodmead. Good morning.
Hi guys. Just a quick one. Just just a comment that you say with terminal illness. So I've had two of my brothers. One passed on in 2001 and another 2019. And for our family, we just found that because we are so accustomed and we're intentional about the support that I guess is talking about, that we it forms part of our culture that whenever someone's going through a life stage, that we're part of it, right? Whether it be the little one moving to going to a school or university, we talk about it as a family, and we give our input. Any event that's unexpected or planned, that it becomes part of the culture of the family, because it's enough to deal with an unexpected, like a terminal illness, but when it happens, it's a lot to deal with as it is. So if you're going to now start taking care of one another at that stage, I can't even imagine what it would be like, because a terminal illness is that unexpected event that requires its own ecosystem. So when you're so used to and have a culture of and we all know our strengths and weaknesses, who does what when in an unexpected life occurrence. So this is just, thank you for this program, guys, because it just reminds us again, we don't need like a COVID or a cancer, or it's just family bonds and just looking after your loved ones, whether family by biology or chosen family. It's just that culture that needs to be ingrained and be intentional about it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. Lulama in Woodmead, thank you so much. Jeannie?
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. I'm lamented to just hear, losing two siblings, and how your family culture is already one of connection, consensus, and cohesion, that the bond between all of you is already so harmonious and established and generative, and reciprocal, and that it sounds like a very, very established culture of interdependence in your family system, in which you can almost think of it like the struts of a bridge. Each and every single one of the struts of a bridge is supporting the load, so that when something unexpected happens, like this huge truck happens, that load is equally distributed and everybody is holding the bridge up rather than one person holding the bridge up. So when I say that it happens to the system and not just to the individual, it's really not to deny the individual's experience of being diagnosed with a terminal illness, but to say not to look to them, the person who has been diagnosed, to create structure for everybody of how everybody has to deal with this. Each person, with the principle of interdependence, is that each person takes responsibility for their own needs and takes responsibility for expressing their needs to one another without the expectation that if you love me, you'll meet my need. And everybody takes responsibility for their own capacity to meet one another's needs. And I think this comes back to what you were saying earlier, Clement, about agency. So when I take responsibility for somebody else's capacity without that person expressing a need for me to do so, I'm becoming codependent. And when I become codependent, I'm looking to another person to provide me with an experience of myself or them that is aligned with my needs. So when we look to that person who is terminally ill to do that for us, or we take responsibility for their capacity without them expressing that, we actually put a lot of pressure on that one person to hold up the entire bridge. By saying that it's about the system and not only about the individual, it actually takes a lot of pressure off the person who has been diagnosed with the illness. It takes a lot of pressure off the primary caregiver. It takes a lot of pressure off the sibling that is well. It takes a lot of pressure off the parent who's not the primary caregiver to say, actually, this pressure is evenly distributed because we are interdependent and we are not going to impose our needs, or we're not going to pose our perception of your capacity and deny your agency by making decisions for you unless it becomes clear or unless it is expressed that that is a need that you have. So I think it links, our beautiful caller there links perfectly with what you were saying earlier about how to respect the dignity and agency of the person by not making them the only strut of the bridge that has to hold up this experience for everybody, and taking away their agency by projecting onto them our need to take control by taking responsibility for their capacity. So I think that caller just linked perfectly with what you were saying earlier.
Good day, 702 Landers. Greetings to you, Clement, and your guest. Clement, my wife has been diagnosed with cancer, stage 4, triple negative. Apparently the cancer is aggressive and has spread to the bones and other parts. So I just wanted to ask your guest, how do we then navigate in terms of her terminal illness? Because what the doctor said is that they can do a chemo treatment, but it's just to extend her life. It's not necessarily going to save her, but but her life is coming to an end. And I just wanted to know that how do I, as her husband, and our kids navigate in terms of dealing with this. Thank you, Freddie.
What did you say your name is?
Freddie, so sorry to hear about that. Jenny, if you can, please, we've got about 30 seconds left. Any advice for Freddie?
Oh, Brady, sure. I'm just holding you and your family so deeply in my heart, and I just want to tell you that there is no incorrect way of dealing with this. There's only different kinds of hard. There's no incorrect way for you to deal with this. This is something very unnatural and very unfair that is happening to you in your family system. There is absolutely no way that you can get this wrong, because this is something that should not be happening to you all anyway. And what I'd like to say is that the courage that you've had to even call us today and even ask this question, it tells me what an incredible partner you are to your wife, and what an incredible father you are to your children. With your children, the principle is to give them as much information as they need, but no more and no less. And with your wife is to really, for her to make a decision about her life, of whether she wants to extend that life and what does that picture of quality of life look like. Will that be meaningful for her, or will it be more meaningful for her to stay as well as possible for a shorter amount of time? But that is such a deeply personal decision. But what I would like to offer is for producers to give Brady my number, and I'll be able to discuss with Brady further, because I know that we don't have much time left in the show today.
Thank you so much for that, Jeannie. Yeah, the producers will just get you in touch with Freddie. Thank you. It's a minute now before 12.
Betway's exclusive new games are taking the world by storm. Featuring massive Mega Ways jackpots. Take your shot on Cash and Riches, Wolf Blaze, Gallo Gold Brunos, and many more incredible experiences for you to choose from. You're guaranteed to find a new ultra fun favorite. Get way more only at Betway. Betway is licensed by the Mpumalanga Economic Regulator. No persons under the age of 18 are permitted to gamble. NRGP counseling line 0800 006 008. All events are fixed odds betting games.
Medical aid plans, they're normally like this.
So, you'll need to take this form and this. So don't forget this too. Okay, wait. Don't forget this one. Wait. Okay, done.
My back!
Sorry, sir. That's gonna have to come out of your savings.
At Bonitas, we make our plans simple, so they're easy to understand. We also offer a benefit booster and a range of other benefits that don't come off your savings. Visit bonitas.co.za when you need us. Bonitas, medical aid for South Africa. T's and C's apply.
All right, thank you for listening to the Monday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. Let's chat again tomorrow between 9 and 12. Time now for Eyewitness News, and this Eyewitness News is brought to you by Momentum. Advice is not a one-size-fits-all. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor today. Advice meets your context. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Bali Lamini. Power utility Eskom has assured South Africans of a stable supply of electricity during the winter months. It says if the system encounters any problems, it hopes to limit power cuts to stage 2. The utility provided an outlook update of the power system ahead of the colder months today. The briefing was led by Electricity Minister Hosienzo Ramokgopa, who says interventions have been implemented to bolster supply. Eskom CEO Dan Marokane says significant improvements have been made since the summer 2024-2025 outlook.
To date, with the progress that we have made with regards to the performance of our fleet, in as far as the winter 2025 is concerned, it is premised on unplanned outage scenarios that has been revised downwards to a range of 13 gigawatts to 15 gigawatts of unplanned losses.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has defended the Employment Equity Act, saying it prohibits unfair discrimination and also corrects past inequalities. Ramaphosa says South Africa's labour laws are part of government's efforts to overcome the structural inequality of apartheid. He was writing in his weekly newsletter a day before the ANC's GNU partner, the DA, takes government to court over the Employment Equity Amendment Act. Babalondenze reports.
President Ramaphosa says that at a time of constrained economic growth and high unemployment, there are certain political parties calling for the country's labor laws to be relaxed in response to the prevailing economic conditions. The president was directing his comment at the